And what is up? Welcome back. It is Friday night, and you're here with the Average Bros podcast. It's your boy ChrisP, and I am here joined with my homie Brian, straight out of Jersey. What is up, Brian, my dude?
What is up, Chris? How's everything going, man?
Hey, man, it's been a pretty solid week. Just making ends meet. Everybody's kind of. It's so nice to finally start seeing a lot more people out, but
Okay,
driving sucks.
of
Like,
course.
it was better when there was not as many people out because, now we're getting back to seeing people in traffic jams and accidents. And, it's good to see that the world's slowly coming back, but it's bad to see that everybody's still kind of casually dumb. You get
Absolutely.
people off of the road for like a month,
It was beautiful.
forget how to drive.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it's freaking weird, man. How's your week so far, man? You're in a more larger populated area than I am. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Things have been back together for have been back, for a while now. But yeah. That's one thing I can say that I do miss is that there was no traffic. Like that
yeah,
was
it was
beautiful.
weird, right?
It would take me like 10 minutes to get everywhere. It was great.
So how is it going
What up,
over
D?
there in Jersey with you guys? Because we're hearing that they're starting to push a lot more on the vaccine, and the communities are kind of like they're fighting back, man. There's a lot of people protesting against vaccine movements, and it's out there. It's out there.
Yeah, yeah. The mandate is tightening down on a lot of healthcare workers. So there's a lot of buzzing around that. And just in general, just the divide with vaccinated, against non-vaccinated people. It's just really weird out here. But yeah, man. I mean, what are you gonna do?
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean,
What are you gonna
I
do?
think there was this bill that was passed recently by the Democratic Party that was saying that if large corporations do not mandate the virus or not the vaccine or the
Vaccine.
booster, what can happen is that they can then sue the corporation like $700,000. Gives them permission to sue the shit out of it if they don't mandate it. So I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of the companies like Walmart and like all the mall franchises, like huge franchises. They're
Hmm.
probably going to end up mandating the virus sooner. It's just going to be
Probably.
mandated in general.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
if
I like.
not,
That's where we're
just
going.
it's
Yeah,
going to be
that's
weird as
slowly
fuck.
where we're moving towards.
But yeah, man. Everything's been going pretty good. We have a friend of ours that's going to be on the show with us today.
Yes, sir.
He is a content creator from down here in the South Texas area. He works with a lot of people. We're going to bring him on the show in a bit. We have some other news too. Of course, we got what is it? Sony's Venom. We're going to be talking about a recap of that. I know you got to check it out already, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So we're gonna get your reaction. I want to hear your point of view on it. Of course, I have my point of view on Sony all the time, so I'm super jaded about it.
I'm more excited
We're
about that than
yeah,
getting my review
I'll
on
hopefully
it.
check it out this weekend. But the other one, of course, is we're gonna talk about Marvel What If.
Mhm.
There was a crazy episode, and we're gonna be talking about a little bit about this really cool TV show that's on Netflix that's been killing it. It's called The Squid Game. I want to talk about it. Brian hasn't seen it. I know some other people haven't seen it, but they've heard probably a good buzz about it. And we're going to really talk about that a little bit later. I want to kind of get more people involved. I think it's a great show, so everybody should be checking it out. But without further ado, I want to bring on our special guest. I got a good friend of ours, Luis E. Cantu. Luis, what is up, my dude? How
You
are
guys
you
doing
doing,
good?
bro? How are
Cool.
you? Yeah, man, you're good.
Good. You're
So,
good.
my name is Luis E. Cantu. A lot of people know me as different names depending on where they found me. If you found me in the crypto space, you know me as Fear Chain. If you found me as a rapper, you know me as Lecture. And there's a, like you said, there is a movement happening in the Valley where, like, now that post-pandemically we are finding those creatives that made it through that void. I have been finding these talented people and facing the camera away from me. I started videography about 10 years ago, and I finally decided to face the camera towards others like yourself, Chris, how you like to amplify energy around you. And there is a shift in consciousness happening right in front of us in the RGV. And I'd like to talk about that too, because it's something that's not mentioned enough. Like, hey, man, Elon moved like 45 minutes down. Like, I can
Elon Musk is in Brownsville, dude. We got a fucking space station right on Boca Chica. That's fucking crazy, dude.
So there is movement happening, and even though some of the gentrification might have some cons that come with it, there will be lots of pros. And as we see the evolution of our region combined with all the other regions that we're collaborating with, I feel that there's going to be this cohesive circuit, not just in comedy, music, and entertainment, but podcasting and virtual digital marketing all across Texas. And California dying was part of that. And I say dying very loosely. Of course, there's still people there, but artistically, hundreds and hundreds of entertainers have been moving in groves to Texas.
Okay. With that, do you think the reason that's why they've kind of been favoring Austin for such a long time, since it's such like a more open-minded area? The whole like, you get a lot more of that young, like liberalistic kind of like vibe where a lot of people are more free-spirited. So, like, do you feel like Austin was like catered to the California movement?
I felt that Austin is definitely a blue haven for those people that do not relate to the opposite ideology. Stuff, yeah. And it seems that that area has always been filled with artists, musicians, cinematographers, and I actually know a close friend of mine named Knives Monroe. He lived here. Yeah, he lived here in Donna, and through his videography, he was able to start working with Dakota Meyer, which was a very prominent man who had I believe he was awarded the Purple Heart and the Medal of Honor, and he's still alive, which is like a big deal. I mean, he saved several people. He did content creating for him for about a year or more. And then he upgraded and started working for the Chamber of Commerce, the United States Chamber of Commerce. So that's someone in Donna, Texas, that did videography and found himself somewhere at the middle of the beast, right inside the belly. So it can happen. These mini dreams are happening for all of us.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I was literally just off camera telling Brian that I've been, since the pandemic, I was working at a surveyor's company and I was looking for work again. And I'm really out there looking for a graphics designer's job. And graphics design, like, graduating from STC and doing all this stuff, like, there's not really a lot of options except working for either like the newspaper, doing like a what is it, like a t-shirt printing or advertisement company, like one of those places, or kind of freelancing. And I kind of get a little bit more opportunity freelancing than I would if I was under somebody.
Yeah.
So like being that open artist, even digitally, like, like you get this opportunity to make it's a little bit more than what the Valley is doing itself. Because I've always told people the Valley, when it comes to business and life and everything, it's about 10 years behind.
Yes, I agree with that sentiment.
Brian lives up in Jersey, and he had the opportunity to come to the Valley like about a month ago, right, Brian?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, about a month ago. He came down for, what was it, 2 weeks or a week?
It was about a week.
It's like time traveling, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's like time traveling back to the like early 2000s.
So I kind of have a question, like with what you're saying, Chris. Like, how do you guys navigate around that curve? Being that you guys are a little bit behind, the East Coast, how do you guys navigate in that type
There's opportunity in being behind, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, because being that we get to see everybody else outside doing all this crazy stuff and the pace of it, like it gives us that opportunity to slowly build into that.
True.
And kind of like picking and choosing what we want from that situation. Like,
as you see these conglomerates build up, you're also seeing that the community themselves are choosing, like, hey, this is good quality content, I'm going to follow them. Hey, this has evolved into something else. And like you're saying, because we're behind a decade, it seems like because of that, we are able to move in that latency and make some moves before it's too late. Where in modern society, it might already be too late. You have hundreds of podcasts at the highest quality and all competing for the same eyeballs in that region in Austin. Over here, there's not that much of logistic attention geographically in our area.
But even with that, as we get to pick the technology and the production quality of that media content, if the person themselves doesn't have the education to know that they are also 10 years behind in the time, their content lacks. That's the problem with the situation down here is you have a lot of people that
skill set.
They since we are more in the sense of like a community of people who are like farmers and agriculture, and a lot of people are connected to that. Like there is somewhat a good economy down here for people like that. So getting products and getting like the roadcasters and the stuff to do podcasts, like you'll see people in our area buy that shit like this because in some way they're connected. It could be through farming, it could be through construction working, it can be through oil rig working. Shit, it can be through drug dealing, for fuck's sakes, and
Definitely
straight
down
out of
here.
border, because we're right next to it.
I was
And they
gonna
can
say,
get
I don't.
across with all this different technology, but when they get it, it looks like the Vine videos, like shit that was done in the early 2000s, early 2005. That's
Yeah.
the thing, is like, we like here on our show, and then Luis too, we try to make it to where we're trying to stay with the times of the news that's happening now outside of our area. But of course, we give it
Representing.
that little flavor or whatever. But like with us, like, you look at the podcasts that are down here in the valley, and most of them cover sports, right? Like just random sports, because it's either Dallas Cowboy fans, wrestling fans,
Yeah.
or MMA fans, right? Or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because there's a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu down here. Other than that, it's going to be food stuff, but like nobody's covering like news for nerd stuff like us here in the Average Boys.
That's why I
Like,
love
we
your
cover
show.
like we're variety. We're a variety show when it comes to nerd stuff. Like, I can bring anyone on. Like, we've had Richard Gomez is another guy that does like crypto talk. I know that you like to talk crypto stuff, Luis. And I wanted to bring him on too, so I could get you guys to talk about it. It'd be really fucking
That'd
crazy.
be
He wrote a
fun.
book. Yeah, he wrote a fucking book. It's super crazy. But like with the variety show that we have that opportunity to just bring on content creators, you know, of any nature, as long as they're building some type of content, because we'll talk the technology they use. We'll talk about how they schedule their performances or their show and whatnot. And then later on, we'll do a talk about Marvel. We'll do a talk about DC. We'll do a talk about indie, then to film, and then to comic books. And we're all over the place when it comes to it, but it still covers that general idea of nerd talk. You know, and that's our boy Trigger right there in the comments. I want to say what's up. Like,
What's up,
he's the dude that I talk to when it comes to he covers like computer stuff. So like, you know, it's one of those things like
with Apple a couple months ago. That was a huge jump in technology. I've read.
And then like with our growth here on the Average Boys podcast and then on our Facebook, I've been doing my best to try to build as many people as I can off of the platform as soon as I raise. Like, if I get a little bit more, I'm instantly trying to be like, yo, do you need help? Yo, you tell me what you need. Yo, you tell me. And I'm trying to do it. And that's why I reached out to Luis this past time, is because I saw that recently you had put up a post in your Facebook and you were like, yo, going to be doing some content stuff, going to be doing some creating stuff. Like, you know, I want to reach out there to other people like-minded. And I was like, yo, let's bet it. Let's do it.
Thank you. And I definitely see the potential. I was on your show with Raymond Horta about 2 years ago. You know, around the time when you started it, and it felt so right to have that much nerdness in one room.
One room, right?
Yeah. Everyone having fun talking about Magic the Gathering and like comic book. It's just, it's not something that's found in the Valley. So it's like to show people like, hey man, we're not just machismos, and like we're not just like out here fighting cocks and like all these stereotypical things that people think we do. Like, we're not on horses yee-hawing each other. Like, we're just like you. We're just in a different.
That's only on Sunday, man.
Yeah, that's only on Sunday with the barbacoa and the large Coke. But yeah, man, we're not so different, even though we're in different regions. So, but we do love learning from others. Like Brian, being in a different region, he can sort of share with us windows in his world, and that really helps Chris with his podcast, the way it feels when you guys are interacting. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like, because since he's so far away, like, I mean, what's cool is like in recent times, I know that a lot of people from the Valley kind of notice this. Like, there's a lot more people from the Valley that are doing more world traveling.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, it used to just be San Antonio and Austin and Dallas and stuff. It used to just be in Texas, but now you hear like more people as we're growing up. You know, people in Disneyland, people in fucking going to Korea. You know, it's so crazy. Vegas, like everyone's going to Vegas because the McAllen flights are so cheap now. But it's so cool to see the Valley like picking up that pace.
The economy is becoming more efficient and cheaper to use, and that's something that we don't have or we didn't have for so long. So it's just, you're right, Chris, to see the birth of that is inspiring. It makes me want to create more content. It makes me want to find more people, put them on there on the platform and see what we could do, because it's all a time-based thing, and it's a consistency. It's a continuous, like, oh, I'm going to post every Friday like you do. And in building that, I wanted to ask you, like, what is your opinion now doing it for the amount of time that you've had enough experience to know, as a content creator, people don't know the behind the scenes, what it takes to set up these appointments, to make sure that there is no latency, to make sure that it looks nice, sounds good. What is it that you went through that made you realize, hey, like, if the quality is not here. I don't see it anywhere. I'm gonna have to pierce that path, because you definitely inspired me to get along with Robert Espiricueta to build the Oslo.c network. The podcast network wasn't something that we had envisioned until we saw an example of it, like your podcast. What was it that made you shift into that? I am very curious as a content creator.
Well, when I first got involved in podcasting, I was with a friend of ours. He does the Human Condition, right? His name's Octavio Perales. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time.
Great
Studied
guy.
martial arts together when we were kids. Okie, man. Well, he had his podcast. I finally had gotten connected with him after he came back from San Marcos, and he was like, "Hey, man, I'd like to bring you on the show because you're an artist, even though it's martial arts more based. I'd like to bring you on the show." And when he brought us on, that's when I had the opportunity to meet Fredward from rgvtitanradio.com. And then after the episode, Fredward was like, "Hey, man, you talk pretty good. Like, you can keep it going. Like, would you like to start a show?" And the Average Boys podcast, I had thought of a really long time ago, actually, with my boy Trigger. We were sitting down a while back, like just kind of like when we used to hang out when we were younger. And I was like, "Yo, one of these days we're going to make a show and we're just going to talk nerd news. And we're not, we're not, certified. We're not diplomaed or anything. We're just average guys."
Yeah.
We're just average guys. And the dab, I wanted to call it the Average Boys with a D because it says dab as the potential thing instead of tab, which is a Coca-Cola. The dab was a little bit more, famous. Tab soda was still cool, but the dab was a little bit more well known. But as the podcast kept going, I kept realizing that we were doing pre-recording at the time, and pre-recording was fun. But when I used to do stand-up comedy, I used to do stand-up comedy with Raymond a long time ago, back in like 2004 through 2006. Yeah. And I learned a lot through there by thinking that you cannot have a fun, I mean, you can, but you need content that can carry itself super far. When you have people that are famous starting podcasts, everyone wants to just hear them talk, because the opportunities that they get in a day, we don't get in a lifetime. One moment someone will be like, "Oh, I was hanging around with Conor McGregor, and then I was hanging around with R. Kelly, and then Machine Gun Kelly passed me some Takis." And you're kind of like, "Dude, fuck, I would never meet one of those guys, much less I have to set up a fucking date to try to meet them all." You know what I mean? So like this concept of listening to like, the Joe Rogan podcast and all these other podcasts, like it's so cool to listen to these guys because of the resources I have. Luis, I think your camera got stuck.
Let me fix that.
Yeah, I think it got stuck. It's fine. I'll keep going. You get it. You get it going, boy. So like those type of shows, they really have a lot of resources when it comes to having famous people on the show. So if you're not casually famous or popular or have some type of like a huge calling, it's very hard to keep a show going. Everybody, when they first do stand-up comedy that one time, it's because of the fact that their friends tell them they're funny. But there's a difference between doing something like stand-up comedy, and then there's a difference between being a stand-up comedian. Yeah, you're good. You're good. I think there's like a security stop on your camera. It just naturally like shuts off like every couple minutes.
Yeah, I need to change that. It's like 30 or 20 minutes, I think.
What kind of camera? Oh, well, we'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about because that was the same thing with me. Like,
and I wanted to say before you say, yeah. I started off with webcams as well, and I wanted to mention something about what you said earlier. Like, you're right about how there has to be some sort of pool for a show to work, and that's why, like, early on, I started involving myself with the comedians down here, because I noticed that no one was recording them professionally. So I first offered my services for free to Raymond, and we started working together like that with my I had a Samsung S7 at the time. I would just walk around.
Nice. Just walking around recording them and stuff.
Yeah. And then like he saw what we did with that, and he gave me an opportunity, and he said, "Hey, let's invest into some cameras." And I still actually use some of those cameras that we purchased like 3 years ago. So there's still to this day, I'm very grateful for Raymond Horta and his family, because they've allowed me to shift into that. They got me addicted to lenses and like the way that you can make someone look versus their own phone, holding their phone in a TikTok. You can amplify who they are. So like I've been doing work lately with Indigo Sound studios. They've been helping me. We're collaborating on a cover that we're working together, as well with RDZ Electric and Camera G. And those people have been so beautiful in helping me grow as a musician, because for a long time I wanted to be this, like, you know, musician that was taken seriously in the Valley. And at some point I realized, like, I felt narcissistic, just constantly pointing the camera at me, constantly like, hey, look at this, I can do this. At some point I was like, this feels wrong. And that's when I shifted the camera away from me, and I started pointing it at other people. And that's really when my life changed. Like, because like helping others, it just improved my life. You know, I would get paid with gigs and get opportunities to. I opened up for the Lizard Man because of a video that I did.
Nice.
Thanks to JJG. Shout out to JJG Glass. He's a glass blowing comedian from Austin, Texas. And to meet all these people and to have all these opportunities, they wouldn't have been possible if people out there like yourself, Chris, like yourself, Brian, teaching us younger kids that it is possible to find that niche market that you want and chase it, no matter how nerdy it seems, no matter how unrealistic it might be in that moment. It's the consistency of saying, I'm going to do it for 10, 15 years if I have to.
Well, Luis, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry, Chris. Can I just jump in real quick? Luis, let me ask you a question. So, what do you in I guess in your tenure and how long you've been doing this, can you just, for anybody that's listening, list or just name some of the challenges that you've come across so that people get a better understanding as to what your journey has been?
So, as a content creator, I've been exploring comedy, stand-up comedy. So if you're recording like speeches, if you're recording important meetings where you have to like have audio and you have to have different angles, people don't understand the intricacies that go behind that, such as having all the adapters for all the kinds of soundboards that you're going to interact with. If you don't have a specific a little piece of device that you need to plug in, then you look unprofessional. And then you might lose that gig just because you didn't know that they were going to use a 60-year-old machine in their theater that's been around for 100 years. Crazy. So that's one of those. Another thing is those impossible moments where you had no idea that your lens was going to fail in that moment. Lenses, as you unattach them and reattach them to cameras over time, they degrade. Sometimes the screws become loose. So you might think that your shot is looking great, and then you go and look at that post-production and it's blurry. There's a giant scratch. All of a sudden you have to explain to your client why you cannot take his $500 and how you just wasted his time, and then you have to try to hope that you can find a way to salvage that through maybe an exterior angle that you had that it's not as flattering as the primary shot. So there is so much to it that anytime I see any content creators of any kind, I bow my hat to them. I bow and tip my hat to them, because I know that there is so much pain and anguish that people don't see. And these people, you should care for them because they're attempting to immortalize. Like myself, at some point, maybe they tried to record themselves and they sort of realize, hey, maybe I'm not that. I'm okay with not being number one, man. I'm okay with being number 36. Like you said, casually famous. All my friends are famous. Like I have if you accumulate all my friends list, there's like 20 million followers altogether. Now, nice. Do I appropriate and say, oh, this is my circle, no one can join? No, you can come in. You have talent. Show us. How can you help collaborate? How can you, just like you, Chris, how you bring on people on your platform and you try to amplify them? I try to collaborate with people like that see the bigger picture, that see, hey, we're the Valley. It's not, oh, look at me, I'm the rapper, I'm the best. Oh, look at me, it's not like that anymore. Like that shit, it's dead. Now it's about finding that community where we can support each other and be like, yeah, man, we matter. So those to recap, from the technical issues having to do with audio to the actual equipment that you have to deal with on a daily basis on each separate environment, to the actual social dynamic, variables that you have to deal with, the egos, the passive aggressiveness of certain bosses.
There you go. Yeah.
The people that are like super unsatisfied, no matter how well you made your work, they discourage you because they want to pay you less. They
Yeah, of course.
discourage you because they don't want to. They don't want you to think that you're worth at the value that you're at. So that's something that I struggle with, and I'm sure you do, Chris. If you've done any video work down here,
Yeah.
people will not see the value in it. It's like, dude, like this is an art form. I'm an artist. I demand some fucking respect.
Yep.
Like we do this for a living. Just because I am not painting, just because I am not singing or dancing I'm a fucking artist. I demand my respect, yo. And so I talk to people in a way where it's like, if you don't see the value in these creatives, whether they be yourself or your circle or your acquaintances, you need to respect them, because we're not going to be around forever. I've lost like 16 friends during the pandemic. Like I tried to I go into a depressive episode when I find out that I lost this client that I wanted to work with, that so happens to be such a beautiful person, is no longer around because of a COVID-19 virus. So yeah, you have those elements of like trying to somehow create content with people before they leave, and to leave a legacy where you're like, yeah, I work with Bobby Pulido, or yes, I work with Raymond Horta, or yes, so you're constantly against, to recap, you're constantly against technical audio issues, visual issues, social dynamic issues with egos, and you also have to pay bills like everyone else. You know, so like, dude, like,
it's super crazy, because time is probably like the biggest problem with the situation, because if you don't do it in time in the valley, like someone else will do it. Even when you get it done the first time, someone else will just copy it and just add a flat screen TV to it.
Perfect.
Like,
let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. It connects to what you just said. So the owner of this building right here that I'm a business partner with, Robert Espiricueta, he made a documentary with Joshua Moroles. Yeah. And it is amazing. They just won the best feature. That not just the like, oh, you might win it. No, they won New York and New Jersey, and like there. So I had that opportunity before Joshua Moroles, but I had a business contract with various other clients that did not like Robert Espiricueta. Remember what I was telling about the ego thing? I couldn't have that fucking opportunity because this person wouldn't pay me if I involved myself with this person. Yeah. These are the things people don't know about. They get jealous. They want to fucking hold you. They're like, hey, amplify me.
The valley's a very weird place, Brian. Like, it's a very fucking awkward place. So like, first off,
but don't you think there's enough money for everyone?
Well, that's the concept, is like,
there's enough for everyone.
Very kind of like, we use this as a way to say like people are stingy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that down in the valley, we've always been country most of the time. So that opportunity for someone to drive a Rolls Royce or buy one of those T-Rex motorcycles, like, and have that, like, you'll see dudes flashing that around like on the weekends a lot. And they flash it with pride, man. You'll be driving to work or whatever, and you'll have your lady, and they'll come up next to you and they'll like blow kisses at your chick because of their vehicle or whatever. Like, it's a very awkward machismo.
It's a 1980s machismo, yeah.
A macho mentality. But so like, it's like Luis was saying earlier about like the artist thing, right? Like, we're down here in the valley. If you're an artist and you do fairly well with your art and you understand it, instead of paying you, people will be like, hey man, well, I'll tell my people on Facebook about you. Like, I'll promote you on Facebook more, man. And I'll get you more clientele, like, hook me up. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, no one in the valley is like a content creator. No one's got numbers like that in the first place. I mean, the only guy that we kind of casually know that's like that is Raymond, of course. But Raymond, of course, builds people too. He tries to help the community out. Like, that's why I am the way I am.
Raymond Horta,
we're in that tight circle,
has always paid me for every single gig that I've done.
Yeah.
He is such a great person at knowing your value as a videographer that, like, there's some projects that we're working on that are gonna change the way that people see him, because I want people to know that, like, hey man, if you back me up as a videographer and we get a contract where like I'm gonna be there with you. You know, he's a mentor of mine. So like, you're right about that, man. I just wanted to make sure to say, like, some people are not like that in the valley. Raymond,
it's very village mentality, Brian. It's the easiest way to put it. Like, people down here will be like,
any sense to me.
There's no growth in it.
Yeah,
there's no growth in that type of mentality.
Especially like, and like you're saying, like, it's very. I don't want to say like the valley is small, but like, you guys are the underdogs. You guys are the underdogs. So if you guys band together, like, and like you said, if that documentary changes things, that's going to change the whole landscape for everyone in the valley.
It's a very good documentary, but it's very weird like that it's even like an idea that it can win awards when it was like that kind of concept kind of probably would happen in a big town or a big city. Like that shit probably happened in the 50s a fuckload. And that shit happened like a couple of days, like what, after 9/11?
Yeah,
Or
it happened
before?
3 or 4 days after 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11. We had a tugboat hit the Causeway Bridge that's right across the South Padre Island.
Mhm.
And when it hit the bridge, a bunch of cars fell in and a bunch of people died. Like what, 12 people?
Yes.
Yeah, like 12 people died and they got stuck under the vehicles and all that
Robert
stuff.
Espiricueta was there with a couple of his friends. They were out night fishing, and well, I don't want to like retell the entire story, but it's something you need to listen to if you're from here and you care about your culture. That's a story that you should know, just like the Dr. Pepper story with the kids.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's so weird because like for us, like in Brian's population in his city, like there's millions of people. If that shit happens, that's just a car accident. For us, it was like fucking like the 9/11 situation in New York City. Like for us, those couple of people that died in those weird situations, like changed the facet of our community. You know, people wearing seatbelts more, going across the bridge at South Padre Island, like just a little bit slower and being more cautious. It changed everything. Like for us, but that's because our community, like I said,
and we're not totally disconnected. I want to say, like, I'm a very close friend to John Gonzalez, who has 1 million followers on TikTok, and he's the one that used to work for Alex Jones. He was his videographer, and he quit being his videographer to chase his career, and it ended up working. But in that process, he passed on a lot of that information. He's like, hey, use these settings on OBS. These are Alex Jones settings, bro. Hey, check this out. This is what Alex Jones does with his. So I shout out to John Gonzalez for being open like that, because you have to keep people that he's from Austin. He's an Austinite. So people like that, they connect with the Valley too. They don't hate us. It's just
no.
Some of the energy.
It's nothing in the sense of hate.
Yeah, no,
but
definitely.
Like this goes back to what Luis was saying earlier, where a lot of creators down here, they want to be good in the Valley. Like they want to be the best in the Valley. And that's that fucking weird.
What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean?
There's nothing. Like there's nothing in that situation. You have to think outwards. So like if you start saying, well, I want to be the best South Texas, I want to be the best. And so that's why, like for me, I want to have like the best open conversation podcast in Texas, which Joe Rogan just moved here. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but like you don't have to pay $1 million to sit on a waiting list for it. You can just come and talk to us. You know what I mean? But in the process of it, doing the podcast, getting the production to be a little bit better, I believe is a very, very great way for anybody out there that's starting a business or anything, that if you can just spend a little bit this much money on not being a generic item and be a little bit cleaner, then it makes you look that much more professional. People will pay for the things that they don't know the value of. So like with us, each one of us has like a really fancy camera. We already look better than most of the Zoom podcasts that are out there. Just on the fact that we took the time to make sure that the resolution of our cameras are better, and we just got some cheesy ass lights. Like me, dude, I've showed Brian. I'm using a fucking $18 fluorescent light from Walmart.
Same, dude. I'm using a $20 light from Amazon. It's You got to be frugal.
$30 ones from fucking Walmart.
Yeah, they work. Yeah, it's like being frugal, but doing the nerd search, the research that nerds got to do to learn the skill sets and technicalities in crypto. Let's segue into crypto, because crypto is a very technical field. And what I wanted to come on here and describe to the audience members that you have here is that it's happened before. The first infrastructure inversion that I could think of recently would be the transition from like carriages and horses to vehicles. In the process of that, right? At first, you know, we were used to just using dirt roads, and there was like shit everywhere, and like from the horses, there was like potholes everywhere. So it wasn't set up for vehicles to work. So if you did buy a vehicle from Henry, you would it would inevitably get stuck, or you would reach a point where it couldn't accelerate in the mud, and so people thought it was a bad idea. But see, the infrastructure was lacking. There was no roads, there was no gas stations, there was no highways. So once that infrastructure was laid out and the pavements were made, all of a sudden you had new applications that could not exist in the dirt roads. You had bicycles now, you had skateboards, you had scooters, you had motorcycles, you know, all kinds of new applications that were beneficial for everyone to have more options as a human being and enjoying technology and inventions. That's one example. A second example would be the transition from gas to light. In the same regard, before we switched, there wasn't any blenders in our house. There wasn't refrigerators that you can plug into. There wasn't, those applications did not come in until the infrastructure was set out for electricity. The light posts, the companies, it's the same thing. Infrastructure inversion was lacking. It doesn't mean that the technology was a bad idea. It ended up winning. We're using electricity right now. So that's the second infrastructure inversion. So to come into the third one that we're seeing is the transition from centralized economies, monetary systems, to decentralized monetary systems. Just because the network is not there yet, the infrastructure is not there yet, does not mean that it's not going to be successful. So what kind of new applications might we see? See, if email went all the way to like, Netflix, 2-day shipping, Amazon, Uber, what is Bitcoin going to go to? What is that limitation? And why should we hinder it? I believe that we should not attack the crypto community. We should allow it to flourish just how we allowed the internet age to flourish. Yes, we had .com bubbles. Yes, we had certain moments where we didn't think that it was going to work, but what came out of it? The FANGs, baby, the Facebooks, the Amazons, the Googles, the Netflixes, and to have those FANGs come back in and bite into our society so that we can feel that invigorating poison, the venomous inventions of human creativity, we have to allow it to do its process. The infrastructure inversion has to occur.
So quick question.
That's my point on infrastructure inversion. And
it's good. I fucking like it. That was exciting and shit. Like, you got me hard there.
Nerd stuff.
Now, my biggest thing is that we talked about this earlier, like the mindset of life and the frequency of people's mentalities and positive nature. Like, do you feel like there's a lot of negativity nowadays that it's very, very hard to get the evolution of technology to work in that prosperous nature for humanity rather than the individual? Because nowadays it's more about the millionaire individual rather than the society having money in itself. So like, you have your content creators, right? Like that are YouTubers that started off in it 8, 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah. That to this day right now are millionaires. You have your people that jump on trends, become popular, become millionaires through the internet, and then don't get back to the community. It's just about them. Even their content then praises their vanity. This concept of like the evolution of like how you were talking about the technology and bikes to trains to cars and stuff, it had a very positive mindset with the scientists and the engineers of that time that were like, yo, we're going to build humanity. We're going to build humanity.
Make a washing machine.
Like we talk about like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and that other dude from, I forgot the fucking that other one that flew up in space. Like the dude Jeff Bezos was like, yo, thanks to all my people at Amazon for flying me to space. And it's like, wait, how does this better humanity? Like, yes, creating the technology to get him to space betters humanity, but that wasn't the limelight. You know what I mean? That wasn't put at the spotlight of the situation. I think Jeff Bezos made it about himself to get there before Elon Musk.
Dude, him suing NASA was such a beta move. Like as soon as he did that, we were all like, oh, okay, Elon's a little bit better than Jeff, at least. Like yes, we still don't like Elon as a society, and I understand why. Billionaires are just different creatures. They shouldn't exist. But the fact that they do, and that they're able to do these things, like I'm gonna fly to space so I can get laid more often. Like that's weird, man. Like
it's fucking weird.
Like why don't
that's like the biggest like
if a billionaire, if you being a billionaire can't get you laid, you have to go to fucking outer space, dude.
Well, bro, that guy launched a car he made into space, dude. Like that's like the biggest I'm gonna pee on this tree to make it mine ever. Like no matter what, when you fly into space later on in life, 500 years from now, you may see a fucking flying car with a fucking fake astronaut in it. And that's going to be like, oh, fuck, that's that thing from 500 years ago. That's the biggest I'm going to piss. That's how much money that guy has.
That's orbit.
I can't even send a GoPro to space.
Dude. That guy's so rich. He could be like, oh, I'll put some trash in the orbit.
Dude, that guy can send a McDonald's burger into space to check if it rots. Dude, like the way people do down here, man.
Just cause.
You know what I mean? Just cause. Like, it's fucking wild. But like, okay, so like, but the difference between a guy like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk is even though Elon Musk is like you said, like a billionaire, a guy who has so much money that he doesn't know what to do, he's putting that into technology that he feels is going to better humanity.
He's a
because
better,
he has a purpose. He has
shinier
a
turd.
yeah, a shinier turd. He's got really cool diamonds on his crap, or he sequinted it. Where Jeff Bezos is like, well, I just want to float, or I just want to smell space for once, or whatever. Like,
I just want more money. I just want to get more rich. That's how Jeff
Yeah.
thinks, right? Where it's
that's
more
kind of like the way I
catered.
feel. Like Jeff Bezos is only making it to where he can get you your products faster, so he can make more money. Like, and I understand, like, there's, like you said, fangs that people can jump on that and automatically grip onto that situation, but that doesn't really benefit humanity as a whole or as an evolutionary trait.
Yeah, and
in technology.
I used it, you know, with the lingo that I did, because I do think it's a venom, you know, to be obsessed with that kind of entertainment and to want to dwell into that, you know, almost hypnotic realm of inventions where you're swiping all day. But what I did mean is that just how we didn't understand that there would be toasters with the new invention of, you know, transitioning from gas to lighting, or how we didn't know there was going to be washing machines that freed a lot of people of their time, you know, or refrigerators that helped you store your food more properly, and you could, all of a sudden you didn't have to, you know, always have fresh food. You could have frozen stuff. So that kind of beneficial, you know, technological climb happens when you have people like Elon Musk, people that are ambitious. And so I definitely see what you're saying is that should we choose between Jeff and Elon energy, it should be more towards bettering right now. Like, yeah, I'm okay with, like, okay, we got to save society so that if 100,000 years from now a solar flare comes, we're safe. Like, yeah, dude, but like, let's fucking fix the shit's happening right now. Like, let's look 10 years into the future. Like,
Yeah, let's because
15.
the thing is like, like, you look at the cell phone, right? I think your camera clicked off again.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's gonna do that because of the time thing. If you want to keep it off, that's fine. We can still hear you fine.
Cool.
It's like cell phones. Like, Brian, you're literally, like, I think you're what, 39?
I'll be 39 this year. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna be 39 this year. You grew up around the same time I did. Luis, how old are you?
I'm 28.
What you say, 28?
28.
Yeah.
29. Okay, so I mean, you're around that age too, not too much. You're like 10 years behind us. The growth of the cell phone from, like, what, 1994 to 2006, like, that was a huge growth in the way the cell phone was. Uh-oh, we lost Luis. He'll come back in a little bit, so we'll add him to the stream a little bit when he's back.
No.
The growth of the cell phone was such a crazy technology at the time, because you remember how it was like, first it was like the mobile phone in the house.
Okay.
Then it was the range of that one getting out to be like farther out to the yard.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned into, you know, onwards and onwards and onwards.
Pagers, two-way radio.
Jeff and Elon heard him. He's gone. Jeff Bezos and Elon
shut him down.
All
right, you know what?
Shut him down,
Cut
man.
him.
They cancel
Shut him
culture,
down.
Luis.
Get him out of here.
And fucking, that was funny, dude. I like
That's
that comment.
crazy.
That was good. But the technology of the cell phone in that time grew tremendously. It used to be like the house phone, you know, wireless. Then it went to cordless. Then it went to extended. Then it went to multiple cordless phones. Then it went to that weird car phone that was like in a bag that you connected to your fucking lighter, and it had a huge antenna you had to put on the outside of your car. And then it turned to the bag phone that you could carry. And then it turned to, of course, like the Zach Morris phone.
The Zach Morris phone.
Yeah. Welcome back, Luis. We're still talking about cell phones.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, I was kind of blessed because when I was 7 years old, my uncle had a computer business. So like he gave us a computer just because he wanted my mom to be able to connect with her sister easier. And that's when I discovered the internet. I was 7 years old, dude.
Well, you're talking about like the AOL style.
Dial-up, yeah, like where like
you're talking about like MS-DOS style.
Like if your grandma called, like your video would shut off. I had to leave YouTube. There wasn't even YouTube videos. Like you had to leave the computer loading a viral video that you found on eBombs World or Eebs, and it would load all day just so you can watch 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's super fucking. That's still way after what I'm talking about. Like because like when the cell phone first came out, well, even before the cell phone, it was the pager. Like the pager was there, and then like the pager first was like it would just beep, and then you would see like a phone number.
I remember
and
my
then it got
parents.
to where the cell phone number would appear with a name, and then it got to where the person can
People
leave
look
you
at
a message on your phone, but they had to use the letters on the numeric pad. You know how like the one is like a ABC, so like you had to like casually tag that shit in. Like I think Blueberry was the first one that added a full keyboard, but like there was a point when you could literally see the growth of the technology in the cell phone within a gap of 15 to 20 years.
Oh, definitely.
Where most technologies like the bike, like the Q-tip, right? Let's fucking say the Q-tip. Like the Q-tip has hit a pinnacle of its evolution. It's never going to change. You're either going to make it sterling silver, gold, or a silicone cup, but it's never going to change that stick design with the two little cotton swabs.
Yeah,
it's never gonna do it. It's toilet paper, bro. Like it's never gonna change.
Yeah,
like that evolutionary has reached its peak.
It's reached its peak. Yeah, anything
like,
above that is like, oh, it's like you're getting luxury golden toilet paper.
Like I kind of feel like right now, technology wise, we've reached a peak that we don't know where we're gonna go next. And I think like the Elon Musk guy, like he's on the verge of figuring out what we're gonna do. Like he's gonna figure out the next thrust propulsion. Like that's what I think he's gonna figure out. He's gonna figure out that fucking like Back to the Future on the back of the jet, like fucking weird flame that looks like rings and fucking uses I don't know, Chronicles of Riddick smoke in the space to fly with, or I don't know. He's gonna figure it out. Like that's the next evolutionary step. The next person that can figure out how to get to the moon in 10 minutes is gonna be the dude.
Especially because he's heartbroken now. So right now,
he's like, got some shit to. He's either gonna hit the gym or he's gonna hit the fucking art board.
I don't care about Grimes. I'm gonna put in 200 more hours. Fuck Grimes. I'm gonna put in 300 hours.
So Brian, I don't know if you knew that Elon Musk broke up with his or divorced his chick in like 7 years, 8 years. So now he's single in the valley, dude. And that's downtown McAllen right there, man.
He's done. Hey, ladies, this is your time to shine.
No,
can you imagine if he just starts dating like a lady that like owns a
single billionaire? This is not your chance. You may he's going to run through the valley. So you guys
are in trouble.
You guys are in trouble. You'll be fine. You guys are in trouble.
But it's either one of those things. Like I mean, he's either gonna hit the gym or he's gonna put his mind into something. But I feel like technology wise, he's the dude that we're going for next. Like the cell phone, like right now, it's the same shit. Apple,
Steve
puts
Jobs
out the weirdest fucking cell phones every couple weeks. Like they're barely putting like the cooler cameras in the phones that they could have done like a year ago, 5 years ago, because they've gotten to this idea that's like branding, where when you create a brand or an idea, you never put out your greatest idea first. You save it for the last variation, the final form, the ultra instinct of your brand.
When
like
you
whenever you create an invention, you don't give them the ultimate idea. You give them like the version 1 that's got like a cheaper thing in it, but that's not your full idea. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that way you can. It's like companies back in the 80s when they started making products, but they were like, well, don't make it good, because if you make it good and it doesn't break, like
you won't buy it.
You'll never get customers to come back.
Yeah.
So you got to make it a little faulty, man. Don't worry about it. Like quality is not important. Yeah, it's just the idea of staying relevant, right?
So wait, Chris, I have a question. So you used I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of your analogy with the phones and that 10-year gap. And I want to ask Luis, like, where do you see the crypto world in that same 10, 15-year bubble? I know that we started this conversation talking about the evolution, and where do you see it leading to just in a small time frame of a small window of 10 to 15 years?
Okay. Picture this. You wake up in the morning, Alexa, pay all my bills with Ethereum. Paid. You order an Uber while you're brushing your teeth by tapping your phone with, you tap that just like usual, but instead of you using fiat, there is no one in the vehicle. It's already integrated with Ethereum network technology that allows the Tesla vehicle to read where it's at and drive to a location and calculate how much gas it's going to take. Crypto wise, charge you the stable coin to your account, all while you're brushing your teeth. You finish getting ready, you walk outside, there's a car with no one inside of it. You walk into there, and in that world, I already picture like holographic technology where like, and I know it's only 10 years,
I was gonna say you're talking about like the Jetsons type of shit, dude.
No, no,
Like,
no.
Yeah, I was
No,
gonna
no,
say that's pretty hard.
no.
that's
So
hardcore, yo.
are you familiar with Ray Kurzweil? If you're familiar with Ray Kurzweil, he's this big tech guy from the 80s that invented, that Kurzweil brand for keyboards. But he also was very known for predicting the future very accurately with his AI technology. He predicted the exact day in which we would beat human beings with a computer, in chess. So,
Okay.
so this guy said that by 2045, there's going to be like a giant technological singularity,
Swing.
right?
Okay.
So I'm talking about like we're about to like go up. So within the next 10 years, you're going to see that climb. And I know it sounds weird right now, like holographic technology. What do you mean? Yeah, we'll have another
I'm all
podcast
for it.
in 10 years,
Yeah.
and we'll see how close we are. Because if you look at VR 10 years ago, it was like just an imaginary thing. They were like, we tried virtual, boy, that shit doesn't work. No, now it's real, and you can go and have virtual sex. You can go and on virtual dates. You can play golf. It's weird, man, and it's kind of cool. So if we have that, then 10 years from now, with crypto integrated into that kind of technology, I feel that you will feel more free because, for example, if you have some problem with your business and, for example, as a videographer, one of my friends did a wedding for Adrian Visions, did a wedding here in the Valley, and the person reversed the transaction after they gave him the video.
No way.
Yeah.
God damn it, dude.
So in the future, that stuff's not going to happen because most transactions will be dealt with on the blockchain. And so the difference between a centralized system, those of you that are not aware of our listeners that are not aware of monetary policy, right now our money's not, it's not ownership based. It doesn't tell people how much you have, it tells people how much you owe. So it's debt based. And in having a debt based monetary system that's controlled by like 20 white dudes in a federal building that's not a federal building. So allegedly, it brings questions where I see why people want to invent a new money, and it's not weird. We started with rocks. We started actually with caves. The ledgers that we first used as money, it actually preceded language. We learned how to calculate what we owe to each other first on cave walls. Then we graduated to feathers and jewelry. Then we graduated to materials that are harder to find, like crystals. Then we went into minerals that could be shaped and turned into other things and have properties. And then we went into IOU, right? At some point, we went from gold to IOU. And that's where we fucked up. We made
I'm feeling that was during the Great Depression when the World Banks called all the money back, and a lot of businesses were kind of like, fuck.
Thanks,
you know,
Nixon.
there's that weird concept that like Fort Knox doesn't have gold in it, and our Federal Reserve doesn't have gold, and the value of money is actually just based on our faith in what money has stood for since the beginning the bill was printed.
So to answer Brian's question, I think that in the next 10 years, we might see the beginnings of holographic technology, like I mentioned earlier. But what I'm more excited about is that transition from the person owing money to owning money. Once that transition happens, we're not going to go back, dude. It's a one-way road.
So then let me ask you a question. So I know we're talking with anybody about anything that they're passionate about. There's always that other side of the coin, right? There's that flip side of the coin. Do you see any hurdles that can stop stopping that from happening in the next
that evolution?
So I mean, aside from like countries like China that don't like that technology,
okay.
I want to make something very, very evident. If you're aware of BitTorrent or uTorrent or Pirate Bay, that kind of technology has been unwanted and illegal in most countries, yet is still unstoppable. Why? Because it's decentralized. It's based on peer-to-peer software, where if I have an IP that's hidden, right, and you have an IP that's hidden, and no one knows where we're at, and we share each other's files, no one can stop that because it's from one point to another. It's independently. It's not a central hub where Facebook can see what you're doing. So BitTorrent and uTorrent, they're not named like that accidentally. The reason that BitTorrent has the same bit that Bitcoin has is because BitTorrent is a blockchain. It's just not a blockchain for value. It's a blockchain for files, for data. So if you look at it like that, as in, okay, they can ban it. A country can say you cannot use Bitcoin here, or you cannot use Ethereum here, and that's fine. But people are still going to do it because you can't really stop it. You can sort of just say that it's illegal, and at some point, people are going to realize, like, wait, why are you trying to make this technology illegal if it's actually better for everyone?
Better for
Like,
everyone.
your purchasing power will actually, instead of being inflated every year, you'll keep that purchasing power. You'll feel richer just because, like, okay, you made $10,000 and you put it into a portfolio in stocks and crypto, and all of a sudden, like, instead of it being $10,000 or 8,000 in a year, it's 30, 40,000. You're like, what's happening here? Well, as more money is being printed, since you're in a different network that's valuing the monetary value of your shares based on mathematics and formulas and algorithms, instead of these men that decide what they want depending on their personal agendas, you get an environment where all of a sudden it feels more realistic. And by realistic, I mean, if I want to do business with you and we're not doing anything illegal, no one should know what the heck we're doing. It should just be like, hey, man, thanks for that service. I really appreciate you taking the photos of my wedding. I'm going to wire you $400 in Ethereum. Once that $400 is sent in Ethereum or whatever the coin is going to be used for video transactions 10 years from now, that will be it. That from that point on, the trade has occurred. Escrow, it's called an escrow exchange. So it'll be like every purchase will be like buying property now in the future versus what we have today. What was that? Oh, I thought someone called me in real life.
Ghosts and shit.
In real life.
Ghosts in the studio.
All right. Let me see what time we're gonna be on for. How much longer, Chris? Because I know that they're. Oh, we're good. Okay. Well, we're good.
Yeah.
So
we're usually on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So are you
okay?
okay?
We're still good. No, yeah. I just wanted to check the time. I got lost in thought, and then someone came in. Robert came in and grabbed something real quick, but I wanted to finish that thought and basically say, like, it's not that, like, I don't see anything that can. Yes, you can have an EMP, right? I mean, but an EMP will also destroy the internet. Temporarily.
Destroy everything electronic.
Credit card systems, banking, like it destroys everything.
Then it goes back to big feathers, like you said earlier.
So that's one case scenario, right? You're like, oh, what are the things that could happen? And a global EMP could happen, and all blockchains are dead, right? But technically, that can't already happen anymore because there's a team that sent blockchain nodes to space. So even if you EMP the whole planet, the moment the electricity comes back and we ping back to that satellite, okay, everything's updated. You're gonna have to EMP the planet. Yeah, you're gonna have to EMP the planet. Then you're gonna have to send an EMP at the same time that satellite, multiple satellites that are in space now that are protecting the blockchain. So that's case scenario one, right? Worst case scenario. Another one would be a country like China decides to go to war because of technology like blockchain. It's like, let's just say worst case scenario, they just start bombing people that use that. Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, the cryptocurrency and technology would be the least of our troubles. We would be more worried about food and ammunition and the future of the next 10 days. It'd be a lot more survival based. A third case scenario, right? So that's apocalyptic scenario would be the second one. The third one would be if somehow this technology was robbed by humanity, by the same people that took away our purchasing power. So that would be the third one, would be where they create their own, Fed coin, and you have to use Fed coin, and that's another way where they could be corporatized, and the amalgamation of companies that would prefer that is scary because Big Brother protects the tech companies now that they're in bed together. So those are three scenarios. I could go on, but like, yeah, man, I don't think that it's perfect technology. It can be ruined, but it's just really difficult.
Well, what about the negative aspect of that concept? So you compared it to you compared Bitcoin and Ethereum to the concept of like BitTorrent and Pirate Bay and all that stuff. And you talked about how it's file to file, person to person, really nothing going on. But then you get that one dude that sits in a theater of a brand new movie that came out, records the entire film, drops the film online and gives it to everybody. And then those people that work tirelessly on the film industry, of course, the film industry has money. I'm not saying that it can't pay its people, but
Definitely.
it's still taking that opportunity, those
No,
people
no,
getting paid. Does that the aspect of saying, okay, well, since the film industry has all this money, they should have been capped a long time ago at making that much in the first place, and other people deserve to just have it for free. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
I
comparing
feel.
to that concept. So like you have your people who mine Ethereum and do this stuff.
Mhm.
Later on, you're going to get people who go in there and steal the Ethereum from people that have mined it for so hard. And then you're going to get other people that just have the cash to mine Ethereum and take the idea of people like getting paid to do it and creating that blockchain. There's going to be like a negative aspect to it. There has to be
Yes.
something like that.
So I want to say something. I want to say, like, with a knife, I could like run up to you and kill you, or I can perform surgery if I have the skill set to do so, and I can save your life. If I have a vehicle, I could slam someone randomly in the road. No one could stop me. Or I could take someone that's pregnant to the hospital faster than they would have walking. You know what I'm saying? Like, technology has always been a double-edged sword. And yes,
Yeah.
I do fear those things as well. I fear that, you know, like the kinds of crimes that could be committed on blockchains is unheard of, like ransomware. Ransomware is where you send a virus that encrypts,
that blocks something and
it
causes people to pay you or something, right?
computer, and you got to pay in Ethereum, and it works because or in Bitcoin, it works because it's a smart contract virus. So yeah, man, it's that there's definitely bad sides to the technology, but that hasn't stopped us in the past. When we first had electricity, there was so many issues with shortages, and we had to learn as a society how to wire it properly, and there was no education for it when it first came out. So we have, you know, people would use the technology wrongfully at first to torture people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can't stop that from happening. There's going to be shitty people always. I mean, I hope that changes. I say always loosely, as in like maybe someday we might not, but it seems to me that the yin and yang is a real essence in humanity, that you have these people that see a certain way, and then those others that are the complete opposite. So the reptilian mind will always try to find, like, you know what, I'm going to go into I don't want to build my own farm. I'm going to go and steal a farm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go steal my horses, or
I'm
I'm
gonna go
gonna
take
just
my
steal the food
AK,
after they're done ranching.
and
Or
go
whatever.
steal all the graphics cards. Like, yeah, you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that is scary, and it becomes a whole industry at this point, where like the people that I have two friends that have mining rigs, and they're so big that they had to move them to Antarctica. And so they
Keep
have,
people cold and shit, or what?
yeah, they have two giant warehouses where it's like, instead of them having to cool it, they just kind of put it out there, and they run electricity from a nearby station. And they have like so much equipment in there that they have to hire like 6 security guards, like 24/7 with weapons.
You know what that kind of sounds like? That sounds like the legalization of marijuana in California when it first started.
I'm glad
Yeah,
you
know what
saw
I mean,
the
right?
parallel. That's
I
what I was
actually have
going
a
for.
student of mine that used to work on a farm in California because he was like a big pothead, right? Like he just wanted to be like, yeah, dude, like I get to smoke all the time and all I got to do is farm. And a cartel from Mexico went and fucking raided their whole fucking farm in one day because they only had like 3 security guards for like 50 acres of shit. Like it was nuts, man. It was nuts. They fucking had them all at gunpoint. Like he said it was the scary shit. He just came back home. He was like, fuck that, dude. I'm not gonna get shot for weed.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a good point, man.
Hey,
But like,
Luis, can I ask you one quick question? I'm in a group chat, and we talk about crypto a little bit. What are your thoughts on the because you mentioned fear, and what are your thoughts on the fear of people and the government, or the federal government's threatening that they were going to run out of money by October 18th? What kind of
that's a
effect
good
do you think
that's
that's
a good
what
question.
what kind of effect do you think that's going to have on the crypto world, if
When they
any?
try to put the law on that.
So people are going to realize how broken inflation is when like they go to the store and like a gallon of milk is like $6-7, $10. it's going to change the way people, I mean, older generations already know this. You used to be able to go to the store with like 5 cents and like buy food, like come back with like bags of food. So they've seen this happen already. It's just so gradual, but we are getting, like you said, the M1 and M2 supply is getting in the red zone, where they're going to have to release what they call quantitative easing, right? And so when that happens, that happened 3-4 months ago, and 40% of all money that existed, US dollars that existed, got devalued by 40%. So if you had $1 million in the bank account and you're like, I'm saving, and then like you just having your money there, after that quantitative easing, it's like now you have like $600,000 in purchasing power. Yes, it looks like $1 million in your bank account, but purchasing power is 600,000. And that's what people are going to realize when that happens. If it happens, then you'll see Bitcoin climb to 100, 200K, 250K. You'll see Ethereum climb up, into the 10,000 region. And the reason that will happen is not because like, oh, the money's going there. No, it's just the evaluation of the purchasing power has changed. So yeah, in order to buy Satoshis, you're going to need more dollars, because a dollar, there's a lot more dollars now. There's a lot less Bitcoin. There's a lot less Ethereum. So deflationary versus inflationary is something that people will have to learn if they want to get ahead and understand wealth, because the transition from centralized monetary systems to decentralized monetary systems will make millionaires and also impoverish so many people that were actually used to having businesses and being all right. So like, if you're not ready for that, to answer your question, Brian, it's going to be something that will definitely create regulation for crypto. It'll definitely, I can see the United States government attacking it. I could see people like Elon and Andreas Antonopoulos trying to defend it and stuff like that. But
so I guess I'm asking, like, because of that, do you think that with that looming and that fear that people may have of that happening, do you think that like it could collapse? You think crypto could collapse because of something like that? People start pulling their money from the crypto they have because they're scared of what the future is going to look like in just the world.
So the thing about like fear, right? You're talking about FUD, like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like if you feel FUD when you have a share in anything, especially a network-based monetary system, I mean, I can't stop you from selling, but like, I'll tell you this, man, like I personally, I found Bitcoin in 2011 and I had 1,000 Bitcoin because I was mining it by myself in high school with 2 laptops. Every day at the library, I would try to see what I would leave it there. And there was a point where I realized like this might be a scam or this might change my life.
Yeah.
Now, had I held on to that 1,000 Bitcoin, I would have been set for life.
Yeah.
But I got scared and I decided to sell them when it dropped, because it went from $30 to like $3. It dropped like so much, like 90%. I was like, this is a scam. I'm getting scammed right now.
Shit.
I'm just wasting this laptop's every laptop has like an amount of processing that they could do before it's like rendered useless. So I'm like, I just like ruining my brand new Mac that my mom got. What am I doing? I sold my Bitcoin. I kept like 10. And I look back at that moment every single time when I find a new coin, like when I found Ethereum and I had 300 of them. And I went through that fear and doubt and I became uncertain. And so I will tell you this, man, you can go ahead and sell. Like if you get scared because a tyrannical country tells you that you shouldn't have Bitcoin and Ethereum, you don't deserve the technology. Like go ahead and sell your shares. Like you don't understand it if that scares you, because I didn't understand that when it was $10, when it was $30, $100, climbed up to, once it reached out to 1,500, I realized like this is Maslow's law, where it's like the moment that there's a network, it's an exponential rise in value the more users you have. Yeah. So if it collapses, right, and people pull out, as long as we have internet and as long as you think that there's still going to be electricity and people that are using this blockchain, you can always buy back in. You can always just like a stock, like, if you have to use that monetary value and sell $1,000 of Apple and buy back later and hope that it's less, you can. But what most likely happen is what happened to me is that you'll miss out a lifetime amount of money, or I should say not money, but purchasing power, and just missing them. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to time it unless you're a professional and you do this for a living. That's all you do. You just look at charts all day and like, you just obsess over that shit. Don't try to time the market because it'll win. What you want to do is look at it look at it like a 401k.
Yeah.
And you daily cost average DCA. So like if I get paid $1,000 in a gig, I'll always throw 20-30% into blockchain because I already know I'm paying myself in the future. No one's going to take care of me. Cool. I'm like, boom, boom.
So we got a question from a good friend of mine from Corporate Christy John, my best friend. He puts, does crypto and Bitcoin, can crypto and Bitcoin be used in the third world countries? And if not, how will it continue to buy and trade in those areas?
Okay, so to understand the answer to that question, you have to know about the Lightning Network. Lightning Network is a layer 2 solution within the Bitcoin network that allows fees to go to nearly zero because it's basically a buffer system where it knows that this Bitcoin has been sent. So I'm going to instantly verify it because I know it's going to verify in 15 minutes. Once it's verified, then it pays itself back. So that Lightning network will be instrumental for third world countries that cannot afford the $5 fee to send Bitcoin. But I want to say that when Bitcoin first came out, it was not for people like myself in a first world country. It was for people like in Zimbabwe, where you have this person. I remember this video. It's online if you find it somewhere. There's a wheelbarrow, and there's a bunch of money on the wheelbarrow, and the interviewer goes up to the person. It's like, there's a translator, and you can see the subtitles, and the translator asks him, "Hey, aren't you afraid someone will steal your money?" And he said, "No, I'm afraid someone will steal my wheelbarrow," because the wheelbarrow was worth 200 times more than all the load bags of cash that he had on there. The inflation was so bad that you had to carry a bag of trash full of cash to go get your toilet paper, your daily shit every day. And so it became an issue where they started using Bitcoin when it was so cheap that you didn't have to pay fees to use it. It was free. And so they would use their phones. And because of the way blockchain works, you just have to have an address. So if I text you an address with my Nokia phone, and you know my address, you can go to your local village where you'll have that nerd. Every village had like this group of people that were into crypto that would help people for a fee. Like instead of you having to pay $30 through the rupee system in India, you could pay a tenth of that. You could pay $3 to this crypto guy, and he'd send your family $90 instead of the 70 in rupees. Instead of them. So what I'm saying is that this technology was for third world countries first, and then it developed and it became like a phenomenal thing where like Satoshi Nakamoto had no idea that it would become a world leading technology, or otherwise he would have kept his 1 million Bitcoin that he mined. So yes, I think it will be around for third world countries because of Lightning Network. And I also think that you already see that happening in Venezuela and in Zimbabwe. You can fact check me on this. It's already a technology that's helping us. El Salvador yesterday just confirmed that they mined Bitcoin using volcano energy. So I want to stop hearing these people that are saying that, crypto is not energy green. It's not green. No, it is. You just have to stop repeating these CNN viewpoints that are paid for by these billionaires that are in control of the banking dynasty and are forcing you to become these like brainwashed people that hate on this technology that's keeping them up there. So it's an inversion. You want to invert it, and they don't want to. They want to keep that power. So I'd say, the third world countries that want to use it, they can. All they have to do is become educated, because you cannot stop it. It's unstoppable code. So as long as you understand how to use it, no one can stop you, literally.
That's pretty wild, man. Fuck, me myself personally, like I'm not like a big avatar for the idea of Bitcoin yet, because I'm a little bit more on the concept of physical over digital. And the only reason why is because the hackers, man. You got no, I mean, even now, just to get on Facebook or to watch YouTube videos or play video games, people around the world are having to use VPNs just to play video games. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, you're just not even safe being on the internet, casually checking through your own personal emails, much less banking online, where banking online has already become a point where people are able to steal other people's information in bank accounts, and websites are a lot less safer nowadays because they have side deals with other companies that they can sell to other countries information, right? We talked about that with what Facebook or one of those other companies, or what was it? I think like the Vine or TikTok or one of them selling information to China and another one selling information to Russia. And like,
they all do
hear
it.
about it almost every other day. So like this concept of us going to where our currency digitally is going to be strictly digital, where 80% of the people in the world can't write emails. You know what I mean? Like it's a very scary situation.
I think that it's like it can be scary, and I try to I am biased, man, because like I'm into this industry, but I want to say that like there's always been layers to it. You know, you have the option to use a horse to go to work. Technically, you can. You know, you can use a gas-powered vehicle, or you can use an electrical vehicle for now.
The double-edged sword, right? The double-edged sword.
It's like options, right? And like there isn't any bad outcomes from having more options. There's bad outcomes from having less options. So yeah, I'm not for getting rid of cash. I think we should always have cash. I think that we should just have this thing that's called network money, and then we have paper money, and we have precious metal money, and we should have all of them working together, and they do different things. So like I like how like you can keep gold in a safe, and I know that it's there. No one's going to be able to take it away because I forgot to check.
Yeah, there's that concept that you understand that you have that part of the IOU that has value. You know what I mean? That has the value. That's why you can write that IOU in the first place.
And what I fear, like just how people like to put in those like, oh, I fear this about crypto. Here's what I fear about things like gold and silver, is that if you think of our society as in like we're going to live multiple thousands of years, right? If we have that confidence and that arrogance, then like what happens when like people like Elon that have perfected their ability to go into space, all of a sudden they're like, oh, look at that, there's a meteor made of gold.
Yeah.
What if they bring that meteor from space, and all of a sudden the inflation for gold and silver is so high that like, oh, it's so abundant, it's actually not rare, guys.
Yeah, it's not rare anymore. The rare precious metal's not rare. So no, I get that concept too.
There's also stuff like that, but it's so far ahead. But might as well try to fix that right now by having options like network money, where you can't get more Bitcoin in space. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, with the concept of it, I guess it's not the idea that, not really like the double-edged sword concept. I'm talking about like that one day that one dude came and crashed the entire pipeline of the East Coast, which was like a couple months ago. Just on the idea that I think he used that ransom virus that you were talking about earlier. He used that and told them, hey man, well, if you can't pay me, I'm going to drop all the fucking oil piping of I think
they would have lost millions and millions.
East Coast, right?
Yeah.
That was that pipeline that that the internet collapsed, or a hacker collapsed a couple of like 9 or 10 months ago almost. And then it happened with the meat industry too. That's really not a group of villainous people. That could be just one 18-year-old kid whose chick banged his, uncle, and he just wants to take it out on a million people online, like kids on Facebook or kids in Warzone that hack the game just because they want to be funny. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's not really a thing. So like, I guess the idea would be what securities are being put to make sure that people can have more reliability in this without the idea of something like that happening. And our friend John online asked another question. How can people get involved with Bitcoin? And what are some really good trusted sites that people can go to and invest in?
Some trusted sites, as in like where to buy your Bitcoin? Is that what they
like? What are some apps or some engines that they can use?
So Coinbase is one of the safest ones because they're fully insured, meaning if something happens and you do get hacked, like it's their responsibility to give you your money back. That's one of the benefits of having your money in an exchange like Coinbase. However, the best and safest way, the equivalent of having it in your personal safe, would be a paper wallet. This is a paper wallet. It would be a computer that's never connected into the internet, and you create your wallet there, never connected. So the keys are made inside an offline device. You never type in your password. You write it down on paper. You grab that 12 phrase word and you put it in the safe, and you have that address, and you send your Bitcoin from wherever else online into that offline wallet. Unhackable, because the keys never even saw cyberspace. So you put the laptop with the charger with the paper in your safe, and it's like you have your Bitcoin literally in your safe. Now, if someone gets a hold of that paper and they know how to use it, that's where you also have to understand to protect yourself. Don't forget your password. Don't lose it. I've lost like 3-4 Bitcoin just because of me forgetting, my password.
I heard of that happening. I heard of that
What was
happening.
that one
before.
dude that forgot his password and lost like thousands? Or
Yeah, like
you remember that guy, right? Did that guy ever find his
Yeah.
password?
No.
And they never helped him out or nothing?
$125 million lost because he couldn't find that.
His password.
This is something I tell people, like, dude, I can't help
in
you
that
to lose that.
situation, there's no way for him to get it back? Like he's screwed or what?
So no, because in a centralized world, right, you would go and call that company, and then they're like, yeah, we're in control of everything. Yeah, you actually don't own anything. We are in control of everything. So yeah, we can get your money back. Yeah, thank you for calling us. We need to verify your identity first, though. You have that in centralization, but in decentralized, who do you call? Who's the CEO?
Yeah, it's all you on you.
There is there's no head, there's no building you could go to. So it's
that's fucking crazy.
And that's what I mean by you have ownership of your value. It's not some company, some banking system that you have to trust. It's not, you don't have to beg for your money. Hey, I'm sending you my ID. Can I have my money? No. So there's a difference between, centralized, exchanged owned wealth and true ownership, where like no one can fuck with the network value if they don't. The only way to do it, all right, case scenario 4 would be the invention of quantum computing. Because quantum computing would allow hackers to brute force through all blockchains. So yeah, man, there's definitely there's going to be a whole new generation of blockchains that are in the quantum computing world called Q blockchains, and that's going to happen again. So even if you miss Bitcoin, dude, just get Q Bitcoin when that shit comes out.
Get on the next one.
You know
get
what
on
I'm saying?
The evolutionary part. You'll probably be
Don't
able to
hate on it. Just learn with it and jump on board and see what.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah, and then we'll jump to Marvel for the last 30 minutes. I think that's
great.
Yeah, man, we're gonna talk some
Cardano. The Cardano blockchain is now being backed by physical gold. Are you aware of this?
Yes.
How do you feel? What is are you excited for that? Because
yes,
that's awesome.
George Hoskinson is a genius. Like if you look at his history programmatically, like he's just had so many. He has the foundations that you need in a leader. He's not anonymous. You can go and send him stuff. He's a very he's available. And the thing is that George Hoskinson's vision for Cardano is a world where he wants to compete with Visa and MasterCard. So there's a big potential that Cardano can become. I know this sounds weird, but it can outdo Bitcoin, or it can outdo Ethereum.
I have a friend that's telling me the exact same thing, and I'm calling him crazy.
Yeah, it's called the flippening, right?
Yeah.
So the theoretical flippening in cryptocurrency is a term given to the moment where Bitcoin is dethroned, right? The moment that it loses the throne, and all of a sudden a new cryptocurrency, whether it's Ethereum or Cardano, takes over as now the head of the direction. Whatever the coin becomes number one, it will now dictate the market. So if Cardano becomes number one and it's very stable, guess what, baby? The crypto market is stable now because it'll follow leader number one. So yeah, I'm very excited for Cardano, man. I own some shares. I won't tell you how many, but I don't think you should ever share how many you have.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of one of those people that's like, hey, you shouldn't tell people how much bit you got.
You attract people that you shouldn't, like those 18-year-olds that hate their lives and they want to hack you, and they look into your life and they learn everything about you. Like I had some girl, really realistic profile, message me and like flirt with me, and like it looked like they friended 60 of my mutual friends, and then at some point she's like, hey, random question, I know, but do you prefer Android or iPhones? And I was like, immediately I was like, gotcha, scam. Like I was like, this person is fake. And I noticed certain red flags before where like they were just jumping to like questions. But yeah, man, if you reveal how much you have, usually it brings in like just, I mean, random scammers from India, random people that you just don't want to block, you know.
The
Just
Virginias and the boobs, Bobs, or what do they ask for?
yeah. Hey, can I see your lasagna? Like what?
Let me see your lasagna, girl. Nah, man. Well, that's some really, really
I just
interesting
want to do a
stuff.
quick shout out to the Aswa Asia podcast network with Robert Espiricueta and myself. I really want to thank them for sponsoring this meetup with being on the Average Voice podcast. So thank you so much, Robert and Chris. Again, I know we're about to switch into Marvel, so I'm gonna get a little bit quiet now, and I'm gonna turn into like I want to ask questions about Marvel and stuff and learn from you now. So you let me know.
Let's get it. Let's get it. So, guys, we're going to get back right into our nerd talk. Luis, I want to thank you for the crypto talk and the education. Before we go on, what are some sites that you guys what are some places that real quick, website wise, that we can send people for more education in crypto? Real quick.
Definitely. If you want to learn about cryptocurrencies, look up a gentleman named Andreas Antonopoulos. I'll type it in the comments.
Yeah, you can put it in the comments.
He's a master in blockchain, and he has several YouTube channel tutorials where you can follow step by step. And he teaches you not just philosophy, but technical and basic user interface, like what's an address? Hey, what's a seed? All that stuff. He can teach you that. So Andreas Antopoulos for education, Coinbase to buy and sell. And I'd say KuCoin or Binance.com to trade into third other kinds of alternative coins that are not available on the primary exchanges.
Excellent, guys. You heard it first. Luis, thank you very much for
the
that.
Experts, the experts, I'll say stick to Uniswap and PancakeSwap and all those decentralized exchanges that are not controlled by central entities.
There you go. All right, here we go. We're going to jump right into the nerd news. This one goes out to my boy, Brian. Brian, so far you've had the first opportunity to go be the first man on the moon when it comes to this, but you got your opportunity to go check out Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Without any spoilers, of course. I haven't seen it. Luis, I don't think he's seen it either.
No, actually, my friend Zoda, who's supposed to be here today, she had forgot that she already had tickets for that today, so she's watching.
She's watching it right now. Excellent. Yeah. Well, can't wait to meet her. Hopefully, we get to bring her on next time. Anybody that's out there in the comment section, please don't spoil anything. But we're gonna talk real quick. Brian, what were your reactions? What was your rating and all that stuff for the movie? So that way, if anybody goes and checks it out this coming week or this weekend, what do you think?
My initial reaction was total disappointment. Ooh. And I say that because I was totally disappointed with the first movie. So I thought I would give this one a shot, and maybe they would fix some of the issues that I had with the first one, that not just myself, but a lot of people had with the first movie. But they actually did it again. Like all the problems that were wrong, or all the problems that the first movie had, the second one had as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the same problems. I don't know. I don't. It's just something's off. I don't know what it is. I love Tom Hardy. I love Woody Harrelson. I love all the actors that are in the movie, but something's off. I think it's the Sony writing. To be honest with you, I really can't call at this point.
So roughly, okay, go for it. Sorry about
that. Yeah, no, I was gonna just say in conclusion, it doesn't even matter because it's all for nothing. So.
Because of the post-credit scene, right?
You're telling me? Yeah,
so with everything that we talked about previously on the show from like the week before, how much of the theories did I get right before we saw the film?
I think all of them for the most part.
Pretty
much every theory that was already out there, it pretty much came to life.
So again, this goes back with the idea of Sony itself as a company not really relating to the resource material, them knowing the character is popular, and them trying to do their own thing with the character. That's kind of like what they're doing. Yeah. That's where it feels weird with the story. So this goes off of the idea where I thought Sony from the first movie was going to write themselves into the corner. And this goes back to the writing. This is why, like, I think on the first show that I had you on, Brian, when you came with us, you asked me like, well, how much faith do you have in Sony? And I said 0. When they were writing Spider-Man,
I see why.
You see why? Like, this goes to show, like, okay, so the 2 Spider-Man movies that they've created, Spider-Man Far From Home and Homecoming, or I forgot the first one. First off, it didn't even, in the first film when they introduced Spider-Man, they didn't even explain if he still had a spider sense. Like, that's like his major power through and through when it comes to Spider-Man. Like it wasn't until Infinity War. No, was it Infinity War? Yeah, Infinity War when he jumps out of the bus that they show him get
They show some type
the
of
hairs come
spider
up on his
sense.
arm,
Yeah.
right? And that's when people are like, "Oh fuck, his spider sense," and it's like, wait a minute, but that's what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man.
Do you
Like that's what makes him such a force to be reckoned with in the Marvel universe. So
hey Chris, I have a question about that. Do you think that they should release uncut versions of films like the 6-hour film as well as the 2-hour?
That's a really good question. And the reason why I say that is because I'm gonna go back into our comment section. I gotta post this up because I do it all the time for my boy Pete.
Yes,
Pete Martinez, he is the guy, he's the main dude, him and Michael Betancourt that do Harlingen Fan Convention. They have a show coming up. It's got some amazing guests. We even have Cyborg coming, and he's a huge DC fan, so he'll always put things like, yes, restore the Snyderverse, hashtag, we make fun of it. Of course, DC better than Marvel. Of course, movie-wise, it's not. They're still missing the buck, but we pray that DC catches up soon. We really do. But
I wish there was a Snyder cut version of Venom because it fucking needs it, bro.
But, okay, so that's the thing. Horrible. Like, we all wish for more material of shit we love. Like, that's the concept. Like, dude, when we watch, the Avengers Endgame, I wish it was fucking 6 hours, 4 hours. But then when does it become the fact that it's just shit on a screen to art? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Back in the day, we had, James Cameron, create Titanic. He had to do it on 2 DVDs. But that bitch was a masterpiece. You can watch Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio. That shit made dudes cry. You know what I mean? But then again, you go back and you watch Leonardo DiCaprio and Romeo and Juliet. Fantastic and it was in the same time period, in the same timeline as a regular film, and it was fantastic. Yeah. But it was art. It was art. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is, what was the difference between
film and cinema?
And film and cinema. Yeah. Because you had the Snyderverse and then you had the Justice League movie. Both of them told the same story. But when they released the Snyder cut, the dude was like, oh, I had 6 hours of film, and it made more sense. But as an artist, that guy needs to know that there's limitations to how much time a movie's allowed. People aren't going to be there for a fucking 6 hour film, even though we would, because we're super fans in that situation. And people are just going to watch that shit just for the shits and giggles of it because it's 6 hours, dude.
Yeah.
That's like the Lord of the Rings movie. I tell people all the time, you give me $1 million and I got to make a fantasy film, it's going to be great because I'm just going to give the guys swords, knives, and knight's armor, and it can be about any shit, and it's still going to look cool. But the story, the art-wise, is going to be where it lacks. Comparing the Lord of the Rings trilogy to the Hobbit films. Like, the Lord of the Rings trilogy by itself was 1,000,000 times better than the Hobbit itself. Why? Because when they wrote the Hobbit, it felt like they were just adding it to make money. That's like the J.K. Rowling situations. Yeah, they're just milking it. They were milking it by that time. The Hobbit was not as thoroughly story driven. It was, and there was one part that really fucked it up for me in the film, which was, I tell everybody, I'm a big person when it comes to continuity. And it's the part when Gandalf is there with the hobbits, not the hobbits, the dwarves, and they're getting ready to enter the enchanted forest. And the one with the spiders, right? When they're all going to get fucked up in the first movie. Right. Do you guys remember that? Brian, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And he goes, why can't we just go around the forest? And he goes, oh, man, well, it's like several miles that way. We'd be done by lunch or whatever. And I was like, did this motherfucker just say miles? Like, they're in fucking New Zealand to begin with. They're still in the metric system.
Yeah.
He said fucking miles. That's an American conversation. That's not even the same metric system they use in that part of the area. And he was like, yeah, it's a couple miles that way, man. It take us forever. I was like, this motherfucker. He should have just said, oh, we wouldn't finish till 5 p.m. And I would have been like, dude, fuck this movie, man. Like,
it got out of the suspension of disbelief, right?
Yeah, well, it took me out of the fantasy realm of it because they used the idea of what we use here in the world, and that world would say, oh, it would be several nightfalls in that direction, and the horses won't work. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, even if they used a different wording, if they called miles like quabits or some shit, I would have been okay with it. But since they used something that dealt with the miles, universe,
it was the miles that took you out.
Yeah, the miles took me out of the whole situation. It would have been different if you're watching the Lord of the Rings and Gandalf is about to fight that big ass demon, and he turned around and told the hobbits, like, leave, I'll meet you at 7 p.m. At this gate later. You're gonna be like, Wait, they don't have clocks? How do they know about 7 p.m.? You know what I mean? Like those, because those are metric systems that we use.
Yeah.
Takes you out of that whole environment. Even like the Western times, they wouldn't say that. They'd be high noon or oh, when sunset comes, we'll do, it's just different. But then, if you want to be cynical, you would talk about language and regular wording and, being a problem in that sense too. But there are things that just take you out of that fantasy realm. When it comes to the world, like if they would have done the trilogy movies into one movie and make it 9 hours, like would that have made it a better film? The Matrix movies, fuck it, let's just go with the Matrix movies. I'm a big Matrix fan.
Matrix trilogy.
You take all the Matrix movies and you make it just one film, no credits in between, put all the credits at the end. Would that have made the Matrix a better movie?
No,
that's a good test.
I don't think it would have. I think the way that the Wachowskis at the time did the Matrix, they put enough time in between for them to make sense in a story. It was beautiful storytelling. It was masterful storytelling. The problem with Snyder is that he can't write a story. His cinematography is in his photography and his video, his cinematics, gorgeous. 300, fucking gorgeous. Everything was a wallpaper.
Gorgeous production.
Yeah, gorgeous production. Every shot you could put on the back screen of a camera, of a computer. It could be the wallpaper of a computer.
Yeah.
But when you get him on paper and pen writing shit, it doesn't make fucking sense. Look at what he wanted to do with that weird Injustice world.
Yeah.
He wanted to make it where Batman banged Lois Lane.
That was weird,
and
man.
They were going to have a love child, and
they went in a different direction from the comic series.
Yeah, there's no closeness to the resource. And that's the problem with the situation. Everybody has their own agenda when the comic books literally have the story right in front of them.
So you want every director to use the comics as source material. They have no creativity. They have no creativity. They have no type of say. You want them to go verbatim by the comics is what you're saying.
This goes off of the idea that we're always talking about the gender swapping or the race swapping of characters.
Mm-hmm.
When they do that, the culture changes. And if they don't respect that change in the culture, then it's a different environment. No one relates.
That one is subjective. That one, you can have difference of opinions. But when we're speaking of using comic books as source material, you're saying you have an issue with, like, you're having an issue there as well, just in general.
Well, the biggest situation is going on right now is look at the Carnage movies. If they would have done it by comic book, it would have made more sense. Of course, legally, I don't know if they could because we don't know how much of the Marvel universe they were allowed. You know what I mean? So maybe they didn't have the opportunity to use a Peter Parker or the Sinister Six or anything. So they had to isolate Venom into his own world.
Yeah.
But they could have wrote it that he was just in San Francisco, literally in another town away from New York City.
But then, like what we talked about last week, is that sometimes they have to go a little bit off script because they're not trying to pay some of these comic book writers their royalties, so they're gonna have to make up their own stories.
Yeah, they're gonna have to make sacrifice, right?
It has to do with intellectual property.
Yeah, intellectual property,
the IP, exactly.
But like, what's the excuse for like what happened in the What If episode, which we're gonna get to in a little bit? Like they literally changed the continuity of the entire comic books.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have a problem with that. I found it fucking phenomenal.
Oh no, I thought it was cool. But again, they're gonna write themselves into the corner, and this is what I always have a problem with is when it comes to story writing. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there used to be a TV show called Heroes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fucking fantastic show.
Dude,
but where did they fuck up the most?
Season 1 was my favorite, with Sylar being like this mysterious character. Like
now, the cool thing is that Heroes in the
isn't Heroes one of the
most
isn't Heroes one of the most watched TV shows of all time?
Yes.
And you said
historically one of the most watched television shows.
But you said there was a show called Heroes.
I was just saying because there are some people that are like, oh, I skimmed through it, but I didn't watch the whole thing.
Okay.
I've met people that are like that. But that's why I asked. But I just want to make sure. Because if you know, then right after the first season, the writer's block in California, where writers of movies were like, we're on strike, we're not getting paid well. That's why the show then declined, because the second season was then written by the producer and the director and some writers. It didn't have the big writing team that was the first.
Dude, season 2 was nowhere near season 1.
Yeah. But
there was no hero's journey,
Yeah. That biggest mistake that show had was the main character's power set. Peter
Yeah.
Petrelli's power
Yeah,
set.
Peter Petrelli. Yeah.
You had a guy who could literally stand in the direction of any hero as long as they're close to him, and he automatically steals their power and he has it forever.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have a vision of him versus somebody who steals powers and has to study them to unlock them, where once that guy stands in front of Peter Petrelli, Peter then has his powers plus the powers of whoever Peter had before that. So he will tank Sylar in that future generation. So in those situations, there used to be a comic book character in Marvel named Mimic. And Mimic was a really cool fucking character. The guy tanked the X-Men, tanked the Avengers, tanked the Hulk. He tanked a fuckload of different characters. And you know how they stopped him? In one of the comic books, they had a future version or an alternate version of himself fight himself and then lock himself in that generation, lock himself in that multiverse. So the writers got to a point where they're like, God, what the fuck do we do? Like,
you got to put him in a box.
He's going to beat everybody. Like, we got to get rid of him. That's why in Heroes, in the later seasons, they wrote it to where his father took his power away, and then he can only rogue superpowers. He can only touch someone and then absorb their power and use that one at a time.
Yeah, one at a time.
They nerfed the shit out of him, and everybody hated it after that. Everybody hated it.
He felt weaker.
That's the problem with writing. So in the situation, the writers ruined that show because of the power set that they wanted to give this character. So one, we asked this question. Okay, so Marvel, the Venom, we're pretty much done with that. We're not going to talk too much because we can't talk about it much anyways. We'll jump right into Marvel What If.
Without ruining it.
Yeah, the Marvel What If show brought in a Vision or an Ultron. I'm sorry. An Ultron who got his wish from the movie Age of Ultron that finished Vision's body straight up out of the comic books of Age of Ultron, like literally following pretty close, devastating the planet, getting the Infinity Stone gems and OPing him and then making it to where he was a multi-dimensional character. Now, the problem is when you create a multiverse, multiverses come from any time a person needs to make a decision. One multiverse comes from one person, vice versa. You have a billion people, you have quasi-million, quasi-billion multiverses happening every second of the day if it comes to every person in the world, right? So what's going to stop all the different Ultrons that get that Infinity Stone and different opportunities from just being blockhouses in the universe? You know what I mean? Like, that's the concept, is that you when you create a multiverse and then you create it where this character can just jump through it, every time that there's a decision to make, it splits that universe again. And then it just constantly spider webs out. You're going to have a million Ultrons by the ending of like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's no end to it. So the way the writers in Marvel used it, were the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards in the comic books was like, well, the Infinity Gauntlet gives you the power of a god here. But the moment you step out of reality into another verse, the powers don't work for this glove. Just for this glove. That universe has its own glove.
Its own glove.
Yeah, that's how, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's such crazy. And then
of course, there had to be copies of everything for each multiple.
That's the problem, is that now what stops Thanos from doing it from the MCU? What stopped Kang? Where are they? Why aren't they here? Like, where's all the different Ultrons that show up seconds later that instead of cutting Thanos, he punched him, or he ate him, or he pushed him off the building, or he cut off his arm and didn't kill him? Like, where are all those versions of that decision? Or where's that Thanos that got to that omnipresent position where he could hear the Watcher too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a weird, I think it's fun writing because it created like a Dragon Ball Z essence situation. There was a great fight scene in the cartoon. Fucking awesome fight scene.
Which
the
one?
Watcher and Vision were fucking blow for blow. But the only thing that, of course, stops the Watcher is that he can't intervene. So every time he wants to punch, he's like, but I can't. But I can't. That's kind of like what it is. Could he have tanked him? Dude, he could tank him in a heartbeat, bro. Like, the only thing that guy fears is this weapon called the Ultimate Nullifier. The Ultimate Nullifier is like this little weird device that has a little trigger and it can destroy a universe, but the person wielding it has to sacrifice their own life.
It's a kamikaze weapon.
Yeah.
What's your ranking on this episode? Scale of 1 to 10, what are you gonna give it?
Oh, don't get me wrong. The excitement was like a 9. Like it was a great definitive episode. But for a season, I give it like a 6 because they took till the last episode to give us some actual definitive story. All the beginning part was origin building for characters,
kind of like filler.
Yeah, but like,
But I don't think you can call it a filler because you're gonna take something from each one of those episodes and create
but like the universes they come from, like, I don't know, like you can't compare like the Ant-Man story or the one with Hank Pym. Like you can't compare that to the T'Challa story. You can't compare it to the Doctor Strange story. Like the origins of these concepts are very awkward. Like some of them were really based on the idea of, okay, let's build, these heroes, right?
Mhm.
But then like the Thor story, like they could have done better with that story, dude.
I do agree with you on that. I think they could have done better with the Thor story, but then again, it's not over. We still have 2 more episodes, so we don't know. There could be some significance coming out of one. I think it's either one or two. Okay, either way, we still don't know the outcome. So it could have been something in that episode that could, potentially be something big that we overlooked and just thought it was just something that was a throwaway episode or something like that. We don't know.
Well, I mean, the one thing that we learned in this episode that we didn't know was that Thanos is full of gummy. He has no insides. He has no bone structure. He's just gummy filled.
He's gummy filled.
And him being in charge of 5 Infinity Stones gets tanked by a laser from Vision that can't even shoot through a staff in Infinity War.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was disappointed as fuck, dude.
Absolutely.
Like, I was completely devastated.
Absolutely.
Because in the movie, okay, go ahead, Luis.
Because it sort of breaks the what you knew as a fan about the universe. You're like, what?
Well, I mean, because it's story building, right? All of the 10 years that Marvel's done is all story building. Literally, Vision 2 movies ago in Infinity War was getting his ass kicked by Thanos' underlings, and he couldn't shoot his laser through Ultron through a quarter vibranium body, his little cocktail body at the ending of Age of Ultron, if we remember that. It took him, Iron Man, and Thor to kind of melt the vibranium back down. You remember that?
Yep.
But you're gonna tell me that it tanks a Mad Titan Thanos who took a straight up entire blast from Captain Marvel, the strongest character. I mean, even at the ending of Infinity War, there's memes about it now. Why didn't Vision just shoot Thanos?
Yeah, I think that was my only disappointment with the episode. They keep, I don't know what the fuck the problem is with the writers in the show. They keep bitching my boy Thanos out, bro. I don't fucking get it, man.
They really fucking like,
I
they really
don't
shit
get
on
it.
Thanos,
Are they
man.
trying to make him like an underdog again so he could come back and like now you root for Thanos this time?
They need to have some type of end game here because
that's a good point that Luis said, because in Infinity War, the comic books, the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, the same concept, but instead of Thanos trying to do it to save humanity because resources, in the comic books, he does it because he's in love with the actual Santa Muerta Lady Death God, who's a female hot chick. And he's like, yo, I'm going to give you half of the souls in the universe because I love you. And she's like, but I don't care because I don't love you back. Like she just constantly like dicks him. Like, so he's just like a fuckboy about it, like a bad ex-boyfriend or whatever. Like, and that's it. So then he goes and he retires back to his farm. He's then approached by a future generation of Thanos and Adam Warlock, whose name is Magus. And then later on, he ends up helping the Avengers. Thanos teams up with the Avengers to stop Magus, which is this big villain that's a multi-dimensional version of Adam Warlock, right? Of course, nobody gave a shit about that story because it got weird as fuck. Because they started adding a bunch of time travel and this and that and this and that, and nothing became relevant. The scary part was Thanos got a glove and wiped out half of humanity. What the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, where do we go from here? That's the scary part. When you add time travel to a film, a comic, or any type of story, the value of life changes.
Yeah,
because nothing is a consequence. You're just gonna say, "Oh well, fuck it. I'll just go back in time right before it happened and save him." That's the biggest thing that I've always had a gripe about time travel. That's why I think Kang is a bad villain.
Time travel should be like the last. I mean, me personally, I think that time travel should be like one of the last stories that you like use to, if you
Yeah.
need to wrap up your
Yeah, if
universe.
you're gonna milk the shit out of a franchise and you want it to keep going, like
Very end.
that's the way to be like, hey, you know what, dude? Like, man, I really want to run it back. Like, I really want to run this story back. Like, I want to
Yeah.
do some stuff.
Yeah,
Let's
and
add
go
time
back to
travel at the last
episode 4,
episode.
you know, and you're just like, what? Like, all the way.
Yeah, like that's the biggest thing. Like Tony's death, right? Tony Stark's death. Like now that time travel's involved, how many times have you heard it when people are talking about, well, why don't they just travel back and save Tony? You know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
because that's the idea of bad story writing. There needs to be a consequence and a sacrifice for it to make sense, for it to be felt or relatable to us. We need to hate. That's why I wanted Hulk, a Planet Hulk movie, like a World War Hulk, because everybody loves the Hulk. Then you make him a complete villain and you don't know how to feel. You don't know how to feel. You'd be like, dude, I love that guy. He was so funny in Ragnarok, and now he wants to murder the entire world and all this stuff. Like, what do I do? What do I do? But then again, this goes off of that thing where I talked about our verse, our multiverse, the one that we live in, how we've passed the silver age of comic books, where we want more of this, like the heroes crying and losing and killing and banging each other and cussing. We prefer that type of hero more than the Captain Americas of back in the day that we held on pedestals, and the Supermans we held on pedestals, and we looked up to as unacquirable positions in life, and that's what made them superheroes. You know what I mean? Like our world. That's why like Kick-Ass and The Boys and even the Snyder League Superman scene of Injustice was taken so well, because we like to see that hatred, that thing, because we relate to that more. We derive that power. And that's why a lot of society doesn't like the old school, like Batman or old school Superman, old school Captain America. Like those standards are unattainable to our generations now. So that's why all of this is changing. So like right now, when I talk about Age of Ultron and them writing themselves into a circle or a bad thing, what stops the Thanos right before he got killed by Ultron from doing the same thing?
I don't know, man, but if you're gonna have continuity issues, at least give me a dope ass fucking episode, which they did. I'll
Yeah,
take.
well, I
You know
mean,
what? I see. It must suck for you because like you're very close to the source material. Like
yeah.
you're very very close to it. Me, I'm not as close to. So like if you're gonna give me a dope fucking episode, bro, like that episode was great, from the animation to, as far as I'm concerned, the story, the everything. Like you got it was action. It was complete action. It was the first episode in What If that from start to finish you got complete nonstop action.
Yeah.
And for me, that's all that I want. So you gave it to me. You even gave me spots of anime in that shit, dude.
Mhm.
I was sold. Like it was great, but like it just sucks to hear like you got kind of taken out of it because of the
Did you
the
feel
stones.
like when you were Luis, did you get to see that episode or no? Not really.
No, I haven't.
No. Well, I'm gonna ask Brian this question because he got to see the episode, and you can kind of jump in when you get the vibe of it. How did you feel seeing all the cosmic stuff happening, like on such a small scale on a television show like this, or a series, of knowing that Age of Ultron was supposed to go in that direction as a story?
I actually don't mind it because I don't really trust any one director to pull that off on a bigger screen.
Okay.
The only way I would have accepted this is in an animation cartoonish setting. I think that's the only way they would have been able to pull this off. There's
Okay.
no way. I think they did a phenomenal job at doing it, and I don't think this would have worked on a bigger screen. I don't think
Okay.
so.
Luis, what about you, man? Like in the concept of it, it went like cosmic, and it didn't stay like world bound. It went multidimensional cosmic.
So like it comes back to that whole idea of like, once you make something cosmic like that, it makes the writing a little bit more complex. And I
Yeah.
feel like for people like you that are close to the source, to the reference material, you want to also sort of not stray too far away from that material, because then it's not Marvel or it's not that universe that you're used to. So, but I also see Brian's perspective on like people that have never read comic books, that have never really fallen in love with the lore of it. To them, it's also like, you know, when you feel that action and when you feel that thrill, it's at least a gateway drug for more support for this universe
For
that
that
you enjoy.
opportunity.
Yeah, so that you can get new fans that at least will keep the story going for generations. Your kids will still be able to talk about some of these episodes that are coming out today in our lifetimes. So that's kind of cool, you know, that the fact that you're now entering the human level. The thing is, like, I don't know where the complexity will become too much.
Yeah, well, going back to the source material, in the original story, the Age of Ultron storyline starts off as a different reality already. So you're already started into the comic book with a destroyed city, a
Gotcha.
distraught Captain America, and a small handful of Avengers and X-Men that are still alive. The entire thing is Ultron has kind of dominated the planet because he is an artificial AI that becomes a virus and sees humanity as a cancer and decides to want to cut out humanity. Yeah, because he thinks that they're a cancer. He thinks that if the Earth as a planet would do better without humanity on it. Now, in the comic books, Hank Pym is the guy who creates Iron Man, which is Ant-Man. Ant-Man creates Ultron, I'm sorry. And then Iron Man really didn't have anything to do with it. There's no Jarvis, there's no nothing. So the whole thing is really a hate father story between Ant-Man and Ultron.
Gotcha.
Right? So even with that, the Iron Man story isn't even there in the comics. So if anybody went and read the comics and you see that Ultron doesn't give a shit about Iron Man, like talking to him, but he hates the fuck out of Ant-Man, you know, you're kind of like, wait, what the hell's going on? Like in the comic, in the movies.
Yeah,
like
you become temporarily lost.
Yeah, you're a little bit lost, right?
You're like, whoa.
So in this concept, you're like, okay, that's weird. And then the X-Men are there, which the X-Men aren't even fucking involved in the cinematic universe. So you're like, what the fuck is Wolverine fighting Ultron for? You know what I mean? So then the concept happens. How do you stop him? So what they do is they take the future version of Vision and they send him to the past to kind of like fix the future by using Wolverine. Now, again, time travel fucks a lot of stories up. And that's why I disagree with a lot of arcs, the way they come to an end in the comic books, because they always go back to using Wolverine to be sent to the past to fix the future. Because Wolverine is Wolverine. I mean, yeah, his healing factor apparently makes him immortal. He can live past everybody. But in the comic books, there's this really interesting story where Ultron is winning and the Avengers are like, dude, we can't do anything. We need to get rid of this dude. And they shoot him off into space. They cut him off of all his other Sentinels. His AI is singled out into one body and they shoot him off into space. And where he lands, he then conquers space, like different colonies in space. He doesn't become multi-cosmical. He becomes just galaxy cosmic. And it's more of a in-house story. So in the Captain America, Captain Hydra story, where he becomes a Hydra agent, that Ultron comes back to the world. And he ends up merging Vision and him and Hank Pym end up fighting. And in that story, Vision merges all three of them together into one being. And Ultron has half of Hank Pym's face, like as his body. And he's really fucking weird. Like he's really weird looking. He like owns Antarctica. Like he's got like his own little kingdom of Ultrons. And since Hank Pym and him are together, the Ultrons aren't trying to conquer the world, but they have a small piece of the world that they own and they don't want to be fucked with. So when the Avengers go there, because he ends up acquiring a Soul Stone, like one of the Infinity Stones, he captures both factions, which is Tony Stark's and Ant-Man's, right? And he puts them at a dinner table and he fucking has them sitting there and they're just trying to get the stone from him. He wants to bring the team back together and all this shit. There's like a whole other story, but it always comes back to this really crazy idea that Hank Pym once slapped his wife because of the Pym particles. Like he once slapped his wife. No one's ever dropped it that he's been a fucking wife beater since the 60s. So like as a reader, there's so much involved story that the story works. Age of Ultron, the movie was very rushed, and they used Tony Stark because they didn't even introduce Ant-Man at that time. And Ant-Man, of course, like it would have been more interesting, but they didn't get to that level. And Jarvis and Vision were an easy character to bring out. Paul Bentley, making him a character in Division was an easier story writing. But this story, where it brings Vision into this aspect, the two different variations of Vision is Vision in the comic books is more direct and does things quick, the way he killed Thanos. But the movie Age of Ultron, he's very petty. He wants to throw a giant rock at the earth. Like, and he's monologuing and he's doing all of this, big talking stuff. And he's not like that. So when you look at the Age of Ultron in this cartoon, he's very direct again. He's not monologuing. He's just getting shit done. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel good for the character to be that way. Do you get what I'm saying there? Like it's three different characters. Even if someone was to say, man, dude, like fucking what if the cartoon was amazing? I need to start reading and goes and reads comic books. He's going to be like, what the fuck is going on? I don't get it. Where's that story? I want to see where's the Vision at that crosses the multiverse, fights the Watcher, and Doctor Strange, the Supreme, fights him. There's no story about that. But then again, that's cool too, awesome, because they're creating a whole new story.
Yeah, see, I think that's where I lie. Is like I'm on the side. I get what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. But the fact that they're able to tell a new story and have a new spin, there's somebody else, their own creative version or vision of, Ultron. I appreciate that. Like I kind of want to see that.
It's like them trying to recreate the feeling you felt when you first watched it, and it was surprising. Yeah.
So I get that. I mean, I'll be the first guy to say it. Like, even with all the history of Marvel that I have, I mean, I saw this thing, and when I was watching him tank the Watcher, I was like, holy fuck, the Watcher's getting fucking beat up, and
that whole scene was epic. That whole scene was epic, dude. Like
one part, because you're watching Vision fight a person that you perceive to be a god.
Yeah.
But the other moment is that you're watching this character, and throughout all the series, that character's been the narrator of a story, and he has this like real like milky voice, like like he's so confident in everything he says.
In control. Yeah,
right? Like he's the fucking what's his face? Hello everybody. What's that one black guy? The Morgan Freeman. He's the Morgan Freeman voice. You know what I mean? He's so
your Morgan Freeman impersonation was great.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. I was like, I had to remember the name and I had to do that.
That's great.
It's so milky smooth that the moment you see this dude be like, what the fuck? Like, he breaks character to be scared. It raises the stakes of the episode a hell of a lot more.
So yeah, basically that was one of my greatest takeaways from this, is that the suspense in this was great. Like,
and the actor
you could feel
the Watcher really did a good job.
Yeah, you could feel the threat. Like, you can feel the things, the stake that is that's involved here. It was fucking it's a great episode.
It's a very interesting story that Marvel's creating, and this goes back to the concept where I said the MCU will save a lot of stories that aren't very well, and a lot of characters that aren't very established in the comic books. I think this again shows it also in a great way. The Black Widow Hawkeye dynamic was spectacular. I thought it was masterful writing.
What about the Carol Danvers part? What did you think about that?
I mean, for what it's worth, like it went the way that I thought it would. I mean, Carol Danvers was the last line of defense. She was policing the universe outside as Captain Marvel in the movies. It makes sense to the timeline. But yeah, like, she would not be able to tank a reality bending gauntlet, much less an Ultron that's a reality bending Ultron. Plus, he's an android. He doesn't need planets or food or anything to live in space. Literally, that's his ultimate defense, is he just wants to literally tank everything. He wants to just destroy the entire concept of facet of life.
Like, is it me? Is it me, or is it every time we see Carol Danvers in What If, she gets stronger and stronger?
Oh, okay, so that's the biggest problem, is that Carol Danvers' character, when she first started off as Miss Marvel, she was written balanced, and of course, but she's written as a female. The whole woke movement that's been established in the recent times of comic books want to establish female superheroes as strong, or if not stronger, than their male counterparts. When we're watching that in society, of course, even in the concept of now, and this is no disrespect to anybody of this nature, you do not see transgender males to females. You see them competing in female division sports, but you never see a female to male competing in a male sport.
Mhm.
Like, you never see that. And if you've seen it, please let me know. I'd like to see where a female jumped into a male's sport and stood there and dominated the same length. But you see males doing that constantly, right?
Which is kind of backfired towards the equality movement because
Yeah.
it's just like a wait, what? Like you could just
Yeah, I have no problem with anybody doing that to themselves. I do have a concern when it comes to children because they're so easily manipulated. We see that with, of course, like Drake and Millie Bobby Brown, fucking R. Kelly. We see that with a bunch of the music industry and movie industry and all that stuff, where children get hyped up by the adult movements and they just want to be a part of it.
That's what I'm worried about too, and it's those little nuances of society that it's interesting when they place those attributes inside the cinematic universe and they sort of like try to like monologue about it.
And that's the thing, is because people want to see, in fantasy writing, it's so easy to write that stuff in, but it's so hard to make it make sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really what it is, to make it make sense. If they were to balance Carol Danvers' character and give her more relatable situations, people would love her character. There was a time that people dug her character.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made it to where she was like this giant, like, all of a sudden don't need any man telling me what to do, blah, 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 and like I said, like, I don't have a problem with Captain Marvel. I think she's a great character. I think she has so much potential as a superhero to do amazing things, even in recent terms where they introduced like an Ultra Instinct variation of herself, like a Super Saiyan version of her Singularity form.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they do have potential. It's just they don't get the writing right. And in these movements, the Russos and Kevin Feige, like, they'll die on that sword, man, where they were like, oh, Carol Danvers, strongest character in the multiverse, strongest character in any division. And it's like, why though? Like, just because she blew up during the Infinity Gauntlet? Like, dude, Hulk held the entire gauntlet and blew his entire arm up. Fuck, all of them blew up during the Infinity Stones, like, next to it. Why didn't they all get the power of the Tesseract?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't really like change. I don't know how to explain it. Like, they don't really explain it too much. What makes her so powerful? Why does she keep getting stronger?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I don't know if I have an answer to that. I just, it's very noticeable. Like, it's very noticeable, and it kind of has me thinking that for the future in Phase 4, she is going to be a huge part, like a huge part of Phase 4.
No, but you know what?
They're slowly showing you that she's clearly, in any universe, one of the most powerful beings in that universe.
But you know what? I can guarantee you that they're gonna tank her in the next movie, and they're gonna give it to Monica Rambeau.
You think so?
100%.
In the Marvels movie,
in the Marvel universe, they're gonna give it to Monica Rambeau. 100%. And the reason why is because of the gender movement. They want to give more people of color more opportunities in film. Brie Larson, she's white, dude, blonde hair, blue eyes, feminist movement kind of lady. She will instantly sit across to give a black woman that opportunity.
I'm sure she will. I just don't understand how you would, where there wouldn't be a world where there's room for both of them.
Well, I mean, there's room for all.
Brie Larson doesn't have to, like, it's Brie Larson, so it's like you need her. You know what I'm saying? The I'm sorry, forgive me. I don't know the lady's name that plays Monica Rambeau, but it's Brie Larson. So it's like, that's star power. So regardless on whatever movement you want to base anything on, you got to have that star power.
You got to have that name
for that name for the movie.
Yeah, that name opportunity.
So there has to be
disrespect to the actress. Yeah. You remember Brie Larson's name. I can't remember the actress that plays Monica Rambeau's name.
Yeah, so that's, it's like you're gonna have to create some type of space for the both of them. So yeah, they're gonna have to figure that out.
I do believe the next movie, what is it? The Marvels.
And Marvels, yeah.
Yeah, I believe they're gonna do it justice, and the reason why is because they're gonna bring in so many different characters, and in Captain Marvel's story in the comic books, there are a lot of people of color in the storyline, but they're using one of them in Doctor Strange, which is Captain. What's her name? America Chavez.
America Chavez.
Yeah, America Chavez. They're using her in the Marvel, but there's gonna be a lot of opportunity to fix these characters, and I think for what it's worth, Captain Marvel the movie wasn't top selling, but then again, I think they just placed it wrong, like Black Widow.
Okay.
And I think it was a pretty fun movie.
I like the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I can rewatch it over and over again.
Yeah.
I didn't like where they placed it because they placed it there because she was going to come out in Endgame.
Because in Endgame.
Yeah, and in Endgame, like the part when she comes in, like I said it before, like fucking awesome. She comes in, fucking flies right through Thanos's thing. Like you can constantly feel the rising anxiety of Thanos losing the battle.
Yeah.
Knowing that the Avengers have that upper hand by just one piece at a time, and how everybody plays an intricate part in the end game. I just don't like it when it's like you see Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Of course, Iron Man being a normal dude in a suit, but his suit's awesome, and he's not a normal dude because he's a fucking genius, and he makes amazing things.
A super genius, isn't he?
He's a playboy genius and a philanthropist.
And the cinematic.
You have Captain Steve Rogers, who is just a dude who took some serum that makes him stronger than most men, but there's no way he's going to fight Thanos single-handedly. But then you have the Norse mythology god of Norse mythology god Thor, who is made in a humanistic or humanoid form. There is some limitations to his powers, but nonetheless, we as humans look at him as a god, but an immortal like Thanos the Titan might look at him as an equal.
Yeah.
But Thanos tanks all three of their asses at the same time.
At the same fucking time.
Where then Carol Danvers flies in and headbutts Thanos, and he can't do shit with the gauntlet on. And I was kind of like, even right there, I was like, wait a minute, dude. Like, wait a minute. 3 years before the movie came out, they wrote Civil War II in the comics, and Carol Danvers tries to get the jump on a Thanos that's going to show up and do some shit, and he tanks the whole team and kills fucking, what's his face, Rhodey in the process, and beats the shit out of She-Hulk and starts the entire Avengers team in one go, all because he had a laser gun and he wanted the fucking cosmic cube in the comics. But you're going to tell me in the movie that Carol Danvers can drop his ass with a headbutt and he needs the Power Stone to just get her away? I'm like, come on, man. Like, I get it. She flies through ships and makes herself a Super Saiyan, but that's
the headbutt,
Thanos, bro.
The headbutt is where you draw the line.
Yeah, the headbutt, like I was like, she gets punched and she's like, no way, bro. And I was like, what is this? That's literally the same thing that happened in Justice League with Superman and Wonder Woman. Remember, she headbutts him and then he's like, what? And then he flies up and headbutts her, and you're kind of like power level set or whatever. But you're absolutely correct that even now Marvel is constantly trying to set this like,
she's gonna get
how
over.
Strong she is.
She's gonna get over one way or another. One way or another.
There's a constant OP.
One way or another, they're gonna get Carol Danvers over.
So everyone was saying after, like a lot of people who read comics and were reviewing the thing, they were like, "So this is how you beat Carol Danvers? You take her to the center of a planet and you have to blow the planet up to tank her once, like to just kill her. Like that's the way to kind of kill her body or whatever." And it's like, nah, man. Like you can beat her. You just got to know what's up.
There's a way.
But like you compare this episode to the Thor episode, that made Thor look like a complete bitch, dude. In the previous episode, there was a part where he's shooting lightning at her, and she's just like, "I got this. Your lightning ain't doing shit to me."
But you know what? I kind of appreciated the fact that they did touch on the fact that they were both only going like 60%, 50%.
Yeah,
they weren't going out. Yeah, they weren't going like balls to the wall.
Yeah,
and I
there was some fun
do
to that episode.
That part. Yeah,
it was a cool sparring match for both of them.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's really what it is. I get that. This one, there wasn't a sparring match. She tried to get work done. I did like the Easter egg references to all the 90s. The Terminator. She was like, we've already seen Skynet. One robot try to Skynet up. We're not gonna have another one. Yeah. Like I do like that stuff. I really, really do. And that's why I kind of like, it doesn't break me in the sense of like, oh no, dude, this this is not to the source material. The only thing that concerns me is that what's going to stop the next person from doing the same thing? Like, now that we know the Infinity Stones work throughout the multiverse, why don't the Avengers just grab all the Infinity Stones and go through the multiverse? Like, at least one person of science is going to try that. I mean, Reed Richards in the Council of Reeds has to constantly tell the newer Reed Richards, oh, the Infinity Gauntlets don't work that way. The Infinity Gauntlet doesn't work that way. You can't do that.
Well,
So
I
I don't
think
know.
honestly, I mean, I do see where they could have written themselves into a corner. I think the easiest way out of that corner is just don't write about the Infinity Stones anymore. They don't exist.
Well, the Infinity Stones are going to be a constant.
Maybe, unless you just
they
don't write
will
about
be.
it.
Because the thing is right after this, story-wise, you have to have the Infinity Watch, which are the people that then guard the stones. You know what I mean? From it ever happening again. So that was the way it was in the comic books. Infinity Gauntlet to Infinity Watch. The Guardians of the Galaxies then became the Infinity Watch. And then after that, the Illuminati, which was all you know about the Illuminati, which is I don't know if Luis does. Luis, you know who the Illuminati is?
Definitely, man.
Not in our world, but in the comic books.
I thought you were saying Illuminati.
Our world.
He woke up. He woke up like, hell yeah, I know that.
So explain to me, what is the Illuminati within the Marvel universe?
So the Illuminati are all the heads of all the different species on the planet. So you have Reed Richards, humanity, and science. You have Tony Stark, who is humanity engineering. You have Charles Xavier, who is the mutants. You have Doctor Strange, which is magic. You then have Namor, who is Atlantis. You have Black Panther, who is Wakandan. And then you have who's the last one? I just had it on the top of my mind. Oh, Black Bolt from the Inhumans, which is another variation of a mutant, if you want to say. There's about 7 of them, right?
So why are they considered illuminated?
So they all become a member of the Infinity Watch and all get a stone. And they're all the members that protect. But what these guys have done is they've come together to create a secret society that they make the decisions for the planet. So when a situation happens that they need to be like when the UN comes together to figure something out for the entire human race, these guys have chosen to choose themselves. But and Captain America is a part of it in the beginning. But then a part of it is like you have a situation like the incursions. The incursions are when 2 multiversal planets are about to slam into each other and both of them are about to be destroyed. Or your other option is the 2 factions then fight each other. Whoever wins then destroys that one planet and everybody survives on the opposite. So when that problem happens with our universe and the Ultimates universe, the Illuminati comes to terms and says, well, fuck it. I guess we got to destroy the other planet. And then you have someone like Captain America on the team that's like, fuck you. There's always a way. So in that possibility, Doctor Strange then uses a spell and wipes Captain America's mind and teleports him out of there. And then they choose to blow up the other planet, who Namor is the one that destroys it. Because no one else could do it. Because their hero essence was like, I can't kill a billion lives. Even Black Panther, he's holding on to this like world blowing up weapon in his hand, and he's about to do it because he knows he has to save people. He has to save Wakanda, but he can't do it because the 17 billion lives on the other planet don't equal it. Namor's like, bro, give me that, and instantly pushes the button with no remorse. Like, no remorse. Namor's such a he's a horrible badass, dude. Horrible badass. And he's gonna be Mexican in the movies.
I was waiting. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. He's gonna be a Mexican dude in the movies. I was waiting for it.
But you have those people that watch the Infinity Stones because they put themselves in a position where they think of they're that much more important, that their decisions on the stones matters more than everybody else. The human beings that aren't even as guardian, that aren't like Groot, this like tree that's sentient in a billion years, or like Venom's suit that's like 3 million years old that was derived from the void at the beginning of time.
Wow.
Those guys can't hold the stones. These 6 human beings were like, nah, we got it. Youngest race in the universe And we're like, no, it's about us, dude. We'll protect the stones that can, bend the entire facet of the universe's reality. And then that in essence becomes a problem because Thanos then comes again. That's the thing is it's a constant.
I honestly don't.
I want to ask you
it.
this, Chris, because you seem very knowledgeable in these topics. So Thanos, like, why is he after this power of attaining the Infinity Stones and being able to aside from that story that you said where it's about love and about saving, like what is he like? I'm not aware. I'm not close to the source, so I like to hear
So in the very beginning, when the Celestials created the planets and they created Terra, which is Earth, they created 3 forms of human beings, which is deviants, Eternals, and then of course like regular people, which Homo sapiens come from. Mm-hmm. The Eternals were like the pantheon of gods that like the Greek mythology, and the demons and stuff were the deviants. Well, it doesn't really matter in that sense because when Thanos was born, both of his parents were Eternals. They were like the Greek gods, but he had the deviant gene in him, which made him look like a demon. But the thing is the Eternals have more powers, cosmic powers,
like
than
a
the
recessive
deviants.
Gene, right? Of some sort.
The devil gene doesn't give them powers. They're just physically stronger. But being an Eternal gives you a connection to the cosmic celestials, the celestial power. So he just happens to be both. So he took the best of both worlds. But the Eternals, when he was growing up, they hated him. He was the minority.
The outcast, yeah.
So then what happened was in his downside of him not being accepted by his culture, Lady Death, who at the time was a god who mingled with the Eternals, was like, hey, you're pretty cool. Let's talk. And she's like the big titty goth when he was a teenager.
Gotcha.
And at the same time, she was the bad influence, where she saw the potential of
corruption,
of having a powerhouse.
Yeah.
My references are going to be wild as fuck.
Off the wall.
Cool.
Yeah, off the wall. That's why I like
Wall.
explaining comics. I love this stuff.
Thanks for explaining
so then
that.
she ends up warping his mind into being evil and like, go into the corner and beat the shit out of that cat. And he stares at the dead cat and its intestines for a while. And then he's like, you know what? This ain't so bad. And he just starts killing Eternals. And then sooner or later, like they're like, yo, we're going to excommunicate your ass. They excommunicate off the planet. And he goes out and he just turns into a bad dude. Just goes around and becomes a space pirate. And in that process,
like a rogue pirate.
Yeah, in that process, you end up getting a dude who's like eternally strong, like a god.
Stone,
and at the same time, he's like the scariest mad demon that has no effect of death. And not only that, since death doesn't love him, she's made it to where he's typically immortal and cannot die because she doesn't want to deal with his ass.
She doesn't want to deal with him and in her realm.
Now the only person, this one of the only people that death loves is Deadpool. Deadpool. She loves Deadpool. She thinks Wade Wilson's hot as fuck, and they want to smash bones all the time.
Is it because like he's aware that she's in a comic book?
Well, even in the process of it, when he's about to kind of like get jiggy with it, I guess you could say with death finally, Thanos becomes pissed off and grants him immortality, so he'll never see death. So that's why
it's the ultimate cock block.
Has that healing
that's the
factor.
Super cock block.
Yeah, that's the super cock block.
That's the super cock block.
Said, like, you won't be able to die, so you never can see my girl.
So you never can see Lady Death. That's why Deadpool's healing factor is so strong. He's always on the verge of death. That's what makes him worthy to pick up Thor's hammer in certain stories, because he's always a pure soul. But the concept is he cannot see death because Thanos does not allow it, and he wished him when he got the gauntlet first. He wished that Deadpool to not see Lady Death anymore. He granted him a healing.
What a hater!
Crazy?
What a hater, bro!
Wade Wilson, dude's got a running mouth like a fucking sewer, but this motherfucker's got Thanos breathing down his neck at all times, not letting him see his lady. Like, that's the craziest connection, dude, in the Marvel universe. That's the fucking nuttiest connection. Thanos is jealous of Deadpool.
It's probably the most relatable.
I didn't know that.
That's funny as fuck, dude.
I did not know that at all, man. Like when I hear people that are close to the source, like you explain the universe, I'm like, it's like its own, like how you have like lore for Greek mythology and lore for it's becoming that in a sense for the internet, like, oh, the lore of like memes and internet. Like it's like
but you know what sucks about that? I always talk about that too, because I call those people normies. Like they're the Googlers of the worth, which is like with the situation that happened with Vision. And it's not even Vision Ultron. It's just the continuity of the gauntlet of what it can do multiversal. It could open up a portal to another multiverse, but from there, once you pass, the gauntlet doesn't work. Even in the crossover comic books of Marvel and DC, Darkseid gets the gauntlet, takes it to his continuity, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck the planet up with this cool ass gauntlet and stones. And then they're like, well, what's not working? And they're like, well, sire, it looks like it doesn't work because we're in our universe. And he's like, garbage, and he just throws the gauntlet away. Which is what they did in the TVA. They stuck to it with the TVA.
The more and more that I think about it, I think we're not gonna get any more
closer to the comic book material.
Well, not even. I just don't think we're gonna see the Infinity Stones in any MCU movie anytime soon. Because why would they do that? They know that there's people that are close to the source material, people that are aware of the abilities of the stone. So why would they don't, and the Marvel doesn't make mistakes like that. They don't make continuity errors like that.
I was talking to a friend of mine at the gym this week when I was talking about the What If episode with him. I usually talk to him when I see him. He always asks me about it. And I made the most ultimate theory call on how the Marvel universe is going to end in the next phase or begin in the next phase. And I told him, if this happens, I am 100% tired of Marvel's bullshit. And that is when Kang shows up and he brings his chair. If they end up saying that the chair has the stones in it, and that's how he's able to transcend time, space, and everything, he just uses it in a smarter way, I'm so done. I am 100% done with the Marvel universe, dude. Because he comes from the 31st century. So technology has just surpassed it to where those opportunities are available. So like technology and AI and all that stuff that was created with like Vision and Ultron and Tony Stark and Wakanda and all that stuff, the growth of technology has put it to where the Infinity Stones are not all that important in the 31st century anymore. Like they're just regular shit. Like you get them, you could do some shit, but you know, the PlayStation 28 at Walmart can do the same thing in that 31st century. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
like, but if they say that like the chair has them internally and they're using it like as a power source, I'm gonna be so tired. I'm gonna be so tired of just Marvel in general, man. Because Kang is just one of those dudes that he's done so many interesting things in the comic books. I don't know how it's going to apply in the film.
I honestly think they're going to retire the Infinity Stones. I think this is like their last hurrah. We may see them again in like the second season of What If, but we're not going to get them in the MCU. They did that for a reason. Like
there's really nothing much after the Infinity Gauntlet, though.
I mean, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The whole continuity issue. I don't think you have to worry about it.
Yeah, even in the comic book, there's really not much for it at the ending in the story. Like even in the comic books, like the Infinity Gauntlet can only go so far. I said earlier, there's like the Ultimate Nullifier, there's the Gem of Sidorak, there's the multi-angled ones. There's so many other things that they can use as weapons of mass destruction, I guess you could say.
Brian,
even them bringing in the Molecule Man, Owen Reese, that by itself would tank the Marvel universe. There's a dude named the Molecule Man, and the Molecule Man, literally his powers, when they first brought him out in the comics, he was such a goofy ass character. Like this dude like made a scepter and thought that that's where his powers, kind of like Thor's hammer. Like everybody thought the hammer was the power, but he like kind of like has the power inside of him or whatever. But this dude can control molecules. Like that's his thing. He literally is a reality bending superhero. And what's crazy is the Celestials created him so that he's a constant in every multiverse. He's the only thing that's the same, like Galactus. Like it's the craziest. If they bring that character in, that's nuts, dude. I will go crazy. That's the Beyonder. You remember the Beyonder, right? Yeah. Luis, did you ever watch the old 90s Spider-Man cartoon?
I used to. I have memories of it. Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember? I don't know if you remember this. It's a really far out question, but there is a part where like there becomes Madam Web, which is that old lady that's like she's wearing like a Venom costume. She's got a bunch of spider shit around her. And she's like, oh yes, the multiverse, the web of dimensions and all this shit.
What does
And
she reference when
well,
she said that?
she's kind of like the Aunt May of the multiverse. She kind of like watches the entire Spider-Verse
Okay.
for the Spider-Man comics. But she's really, really connected to this character named the Beyonder. And the Beyonder is like a cosmic level, like the Grandmaster in Ragnarok. But he can bend realities and multiverses to his will. Kind of like the Watcher, I guess you could say.
So
He's
like
a god. He's like a god.
like he would know if you're after him, he could reverse time.
Oh, dude, 100%. 100%. That guy's like crazy. And Owen Reese.
So would you say that
his yin and yang, like they split him and he's like literally another part of him, like a half of him.
so when you say that these kinds of characters are there to be constants, do you mean as like these are the people that nerf others, or what do you mean? These are the
No, as a constant, meaning that anytime you go into that universe, it's 100% fact that there's gonna be an Owen Reese that's a molecule man. Like where, like if you go into another alternate universe and Captain America is Captain Iron Man because they actually work together instead. Like the one constant is Galactus is there to eat shit, and Owen Reese is chilling out somewhere eating a burrito and he's still hungry.
Just goofy, immortal, super watch.
It's fucking crazy. But the reason why is because the cosmic. So in the trailers, you see the Celestials not Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy is where you first see a Celestial, right? When they're talking about it, when the Collector is talking about
the
little
Infinity
machine,
Stones.
right?
Yeah, they're talking about the Infinity
The
Stones.
Celestials were the guys who, I don't know if you ever saw Prometheus, but where the engineers created the planets and left their blood for species to dwell or whatever. The Celestials are that movie in our universe.
Very underrated movie. I love that movie. Prometheus.
It's a good movie. It's a really, really good movie.
Hey, Chris, I just looked at the time and I just wanted to, in case I have to go here soon, I just wanted to thank you for having me on this episode of the Average Boys podcast.
I appreciate you so much.
I learned so much in just listening to this last conversation about Marvel that I kind of want to look into it more, just to brush myself. Next time I come, I want to ask certain questions that I've had, but that I didn't understand at the time. And now I know how to ask them, knowing that you're very well versed in this.
Yeah, I'm super crazy about Marvel and DC, man. Like it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
It's fun. It's fun to listen and poke questions, just how you might have felt on my segment. We were talking about crypto. It's the same energy. I wanted to thank you, Chris. Brian, for having me, and RDZ Elect again to go down through the people that have been helpful these past few weeks. RDZ Electric for we did a project together with a song called She that released by him, produced by it was produced in Indigo Sound Studio with a friend named Jules, and also Chale, I believe it's Chale Studios, which mastered that. So shout out to them for that. And if you're curious as to what I'm up to, you can always follow me here or on Facebook, on TikTok. I don't really use Instagram, but I'm learning about Reels. And like there's so much energy that happens here in this. And I've only met Brian. I know you have other co-hosts, and I know that you bring on different kinds of. But I wanted to thank you as someone who lives here and has lived here most of his life, to see this kind of content, to be able to come on here and discuss these things that are not really that there's no really sectors here in our region for this. It brings me a lot of pride and a lot of gratitude to have someone like you, Chris, here in the Valley. That's why I reached out to Raymond, and he let me know that you're still doing things, because I wanted to make sure that I told you this today, which is you inspire me to continue to create different types of content. Like the podcast idea came directly from interacting in yours. So I really appreciate that. It's not something that I know it's not something that you're doing for money. I know that this is something that you're doing for passion. I can hear it in the way you talk about these stories and these topics. And I also can tell that you like helping people, because I went through some of the episodes and I kind of like riffed through them and skimmed through them to see how you interacted with people. So I'm not so blind on your show, but I did notice that you're always trying to like bring out the best on people on your platform. And so
Thank you.
I'm going to try to do the same on the both networks, the Oswald Seat Network, which is like short form content, and the Oswald Seat Podcast Network, which is long form content. I'm learning that what you said earlier really reflected with me, which is unless you have these group of people that are really interesting and that are doing things, in order to have that pool, you have to really obsess yourself over something like this, like the Marvel universe or one of the universes inside. And to end on this little rant here, I just wanted to say, like, I hope that you never stop doing this, and I hope others around the valley see what you're doing with your podcast. I hope that they learn from it, and that we sort of create a community where we can do this more often and more cohesively. I'd love to bring on some comedians on here. I'd love to, switch around some of these musicians that I'm playing with, and that they like to come up here. And maybe some of these people love Marvel, and they're more versed than I am in it. So thank you so much again, Chris.
All right, Luis, thank you so much for coming in. Real quick, where can people find you before we let you go?
So for music wise, I really do post most of my content here on Facebook, only because I like to focus on one app and then sort of like go from there. But I'm also learning how to use, like I said, Reels and TikTok. So Enigma-esque. I'll go ahead and send that to you so you can edit it into the description.
Excellent.
So that's usually my handle, Enigma, and then ESQUE. For everything, yeah.
Excellent, guys. Well, you heard it here first. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with Luis. Luis, we're gonna let you go. Me and Brian will have a little bit left of the conversation. And man, thank you so much for tuning in. Anytime you need anything, you let us know here on the Average Boys. We'll make sure we help you out.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, brother. We'll see you. Okay.
Good night, man.
Brian, well, holy shit, let's get back to it real quick because we got to get going, man. It's already 2:36.
Yeah, man, it's late. Yeah,
dang, man, it's crazy. But yeah, straight up, What If was a really, really great episode. It was solid, man. 9.5 straight up, almost a 10. I think this is what I was talking about earlier. The series itself has drug on so much that right now, knowing that all the action, like you said, like fucking from the beginning to the end, the pacing on this episode was 100% million times different than anything else that the show was giving us.
I think we needed it.
If that's what we got coming up, I'm excited for season 2. Yeah, man, I'm excited for season 2. But yeah, 9.5. I think straight up, What If was a great episode. You know what? I'm, hearing it from you, I'm not super like straight up about Carnage, the Venom movie. Yeah. But like, I didn't understand why they didn't just allow it to be on streaming, like HBO Max or something. Like, you know what I mean?
I can't
like,
tell you. I wish I would have streamed it at home, to be honest with you.
But I heard that the numbers were really good.
I mean,
better than Shang-Chi?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like Shang-Chi more than I like Venom. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
I'll give it up to Marvel for at least them having the platform and the writing team and the structure to build stories. I just feel that straight up, like like it's one of those things that, from what I've heard, like with the idea of what Venom is in Carnage, like it's literally the same thing that they did in the previous film.
Yeah. Have you? I haven't seen any reviews. Have you seen any good reviews, or how have the reviews been?
Some of them are kind of like that. The reason why the unsuccessful nature of the Venom series is because that the directors are not woke. So a lot of the media is shitting down on it, and that the media is the one that's making it look bad. But then from people who actually, like yourself, that know the comic material a little bit, they're the ones that are like, hey, wait a minute, like there's something really weird.
Yeah, there's something off. There's something.
And then the other thing is too, like my biggest concern is if people have to defend the movie from sucking and say that, oh well, the post-credit scene makes it the best, 10 seconds of the ending, like that's not a movie. That's just a trailer, a really time-wasting trailer.
Yeah.
If people have to defend it, there's something wrong with the writing. And my biggest gripe has always been Sony doesn't write good stories for these characters because it doesn't care about the source material. It cares about making money. And it knows that. That's why it's keeping Spider-Man and not selling it back to Marvel. That's why Marvel and them are having so many problems.
Yeah.
But my biggest thing is, why didn't they just stream it, man? I think it would have been a great movie for them to stream. Putting it back on the streaming services like HBO Max and something. But I wanted to ask you something.
What's up?
So Netflix is coming out with some very, very cool stuff. There's a story called Samurai Souls that looks very, very well put together. It's written by the same people who made the series Bright.
Bright. Mhm.
Yeah, and Bright had Will Smith and a couple other actors, but it dealt with like ogres and fantasy, and it was a really interesting story. I really liked it. I don't know if you got to see it, and if you haven't seen it, we should do a discussion about Bright one day. But the reason why I wanted to say this is like there's been some success recently with Netflix shows. There's one of them that came out recently that I'm recommending to a lot of people, and it's called The Squid Game. It's a Korean-based film, and it's about almost like a battle royale movie. I don't know if you ever saw Battle Royale back in the day, the Japanese film,
Mm-mm.
where they put a bunch of kids from a class that are bad, and they're like, cool, well, you guys got to kill yourselves, and the last survivors are the ones that have to like they win the game, and you win $20 and some cookies or whatever. Like it's a really good, there's more stakes to it, and the story's well more different, but they put up a really great mini series. The entire series is out on Netflix, and it is generating a lot of freaking hype. The Squid Game. It's right now in turn almost being the most watched show on Netflix
ever.
And it looks like Netflix might make an Americanized version of it, and I think they're gonna ruin it. But
yeah. Leave it. Just leave it. It's
just
fine.
leave it alone, man.
Yeah,
But it's because they don't get that money, man. Now this company gets that money, and Netflix is like, "Yo, we need that money."
Well, honestly, Netflix. I think I kind of touched on it last week as well. Netflix has been dumping money into their content. Yeah, so they got to get that money back somehow, man.
Yeah. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Everybody this weekend, at least this week, needs to jump into the Squid Game. Brian, you need to check out the Squid Game.
I'm definitely watching it this weekend. Like that was already on my agenda.
I know for sure, literally through every episode, you're gonna be like, "Yo, that was wild. That was wild."
At least you know it's coming.
If you've seen the Squid Game, put in the comments if you've really dug it. Investigate 9/11. Whoa, man, dude. That's straight up, man. I totally agree with you. But the Squid Games, yeah, Investigate 9/11. What is that? Is that a show? Is that like a series on Netflix too, or what? That's interesting. Squid Game, though, I highly recommend it. If you guys have the opportunity, make sure you go check it out. Brian, what a great episode it was today. Luis was such informative with that cryptocurrency stuff.
Absolutely.
So cool, that was a lot of good shit.
Yeah, there was certain points I just had to shut the fuck up and just listen. Like, dude, like I was.
Yeah, he's knowledgeable at crypto.
Chat. I was back in the chat for a second. I'm like, I was just like, yeah.
It was wild, man. I really, really enjoyed it, and such a cool vibe that everybody's got. Guys in the comments, what did you think? Luis was such a great cat. He really informed us about some cryptocurrency stuff and put us knowledge that I didn't really even know about, things that kind of like settled my anxiety about getting into crypto down. I'm happy to kind of get into it a little bit more. It looks interesting, and the investment doesn't look like a bad idea from what he was talking about. You know, guys, what do you think about it? What do you guys know about crypto? What do you recommend for cryptocurrency? You know, let us know in the comments. Let us know on our Facebook page. Have you seen Squid Game? Have you seen Marvel's What If? What did you think? Have you seen Venom? What did you think? Guys, let us know in the comments. Let us know on our Facebook page. Hit us up in our comment section. Leave us posts. Leave us messages. Tell us what you think. Guys, we love you. We hope you guys are doing an excellent time. We hope you guys are being healthy, staying safe with each other, loving each other, and being respectful. Straight up, I want to say thank you to all our extraordinary listeners for tuning in and jumping in with us and being so supportive. Guys, I want to say thank you so much. Brian, I want to say thank you. Long episode today. It always goes this way. But yeah, man, it's always so fun. A pleasure. I get to like save all of that information that I've kind of like just wanted to get all my nerd talking out when I get here on the show. But Brian, I'll see you again next week.
All right.
Everybody in the chat, I'll see you again next Friday. Guys, thank you so much. Don't forget, people here in the Valley, we have Anime Fiesta coming up next weekend. That's a big convention hosted by the same convention that does South Texas Comic Con. Our boy Ramsey Ramirez, much love, my brother. And we also have Harlingen Fan Convention, which will be helping the Average Boys will have a booth out there helping out. We'll actually be doing set from there. Brian, I'll probably have you on my iPad as my partner in crime there at the moment. We're going to be able to interview some really interesting folks. All the guests and all this stuff. It's going to be a really great time. Guys, like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys again next week, next Friday here on The Average Boys at 9 p.m. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week. Laters.
Peace.